Ever felt the pain of betrayal? Yes, I have. You can't pretend to love me while telling me you want to be with other men. You cannot tell me that after 20 years of marriage, you deserve anything more than I do. I deserve your love, respect, devotion, and commitment. I confronted my wife. Her confession rocked our worldview. Here's my tale. Brad, enjoy watching it. What if I stated I wanted to see somebody else? Wow, where did that come from? Is this a major conversation? Are we simply chatting, or is this real? Brad inquired, trying not to seem too concerned. Brad and Vicky had been sitting outside, enjoying the evening. It was similar to many other nights they'd shared, but now this. What if it's not only talking? Vicky replied, her voice bland but serious. Brad's heart jolted. This wasn't a random conversation. After 20 years, he realized Vicky didn't just ask random questions. What happens now? He cleared his throat before speaking. Do you have to ask, after all these years together? He spoke, his voice tight. She paused, then replied, Yes. I'd want to hear what you think. Well, this is surprising. She tried to make a joke, but Brad realized it was serious. They'd never hinted at anything like this before. I would say surprising, Vicky. Have you found anyone else? Is that why we're discussing this? Vicky made an abrupt turn toward him. Serious? It isn't like that, Brad. Really? But asking that suggests that you want to replace me. You don't play games, Vicky, so are you suggesting I'm not enough? Just bringing it up makes me assume you're unhappy. So did you find someone else? Vicky appeared apprehensive. No, not really. I guess I just wanted to know how you'd feel, she explained. It isn't easy, Brad. Bradley shook his head. He never imagined he would have this conversation with his wife. It's much more than just a query. You are aware of this. Okay. Skip the ridiculous arguments for cheating. Then you can't say you love me while wanting others. You can't claim you earned a little extra after 20 years since you don't deserve more than I do, and I deserve your love, respect, and trust, as well as the distinction of being the only one. You can't pretend it won't hurt us. It will. And it already has. You can't claim it's simply for fun because it isn't. It's betraying me, breaking promises. You can't say I'll trust you again since you won't be the same person. You will be someone who does not care about me. Stay loyal to me or stay with me, someone I can't trust or care about anymore. You'd be a stranger, not someone I want in my life. So your simple question, cheat on me, and we're done. That is how mad I will be. That's what I expected you to say, Brad. But is it cheating to say it's okay? Is that really worth asking, Vicky? I believe so, Brad. It is not my place to determine whether or not cheating is acceptable. You are solely responsible for keeping your pledge. You either stay faithful to it or break it, and the outcome is your call. I cannot argue that you do not love me enough to allow me to do this. Brad laughed. Why were you even thinking that way? It is not love if one of you disrupts the link. Love is when you stand firm and say no to breaking what we have. Anything less is simply not caring. Not caring. Vicky, however, does not care. To ignore it would be as if I didn't care about you, us, our home, or our children. It's like saying you mean nothing to me, my life, or fantasies. It's like saying do whatever you want. I will not bother. I don't care about you at all. That is not caring, Vicky, from both sides. It's clear. I don't see it your way, Brad. It appears to be quite old school. However, there is no old school. You are intelligent and mature. You decide how much our bond means to you, how much I mean, and stay with me. I shouldn't even have to mention that I wouldn't be all right with you choosing someone else. And I shouldn't have to tell you that doing so would mean the end of our relationship. So I asked again, have you found someone to take my place? He would not be a substitute, Brad. Yes, he would, Vicky. To me, he would be. Some may be cool with adding more individuals, but not me. I never was, never will be. I choose to be with you, create a life with you, have children, and grow old together. It's just you. Your decision to bring someone else in would mean the end for us. There is no room for more, and what we have, I do not share, Vicky. I never did, never will. I have not done anything yet. Brad, yes, you did. Clearly you have. There will be no more messing around. Deep down, you know you desire something else. Something, not me. Someone, not me. Really? How far did you get with this? I believe you are making a huge deal out of nothing, Brad. I do not think so. You wouldn't be discussing this unless you had chosen someone, formed a strategy, and begun anything. So, how far has it gone? Vicky let out a deep sigh. Okay, fine, yes? There's someone I considered having a brief thing with, somebody I know. She hesitated and gave a slight nod. So you opted to make things difficult for us in order to stop Brad. I would not make you feel miserable on purpose. That's simply you getting upset. That's correct, Vicky. Don't use that tired line about someone being overly sensitive. We all take pride. It is a fundamental aspect of our identity. Hurt that pride. You heard everything. Someone thinks about themselves, their worth, and their esteem for oneself. It's all gone. How can you profess you love someone while undermining their unique qualities? Where's the love in hurting children in that way? Vicky remained quiet. How far did you go with this person, Vicky? Brad removed his hand from hers. Vicky looked down, seeing him move away. She felt sad. Vicky, you put a lot of thinking into it, but it's not very good. I thought you knew how I'd feel. You'd always known. You probably spent more time inventing excuses to lie. Now, how far did things go with this person? She gazed into her husband's eyes, anticipating rage or envy. Instead, she noticed grief. Brad, why aren't you mad? Or are you jealous? Do you believe I am not worth the effort? His question struck Brad. It was a hard fight. Are we kids? The stupidest thing a man can do is pursue a lady who does not want him. That's just insane. At this point, you should work harder to keep me. I've done nothing wrong. I never caused us any harm during our marriage. You cannot say the same thing now. So, how invested are you in this with him? Vicky wiped her nose, looked out at the pool, and sighed. Brad, this isn't deep, not as much as you may expect. In the previous 4 months, I've returned his flirtations. I've had quite a few lunches with him. I've become acclimated to him, and we've discussed private matters. What about the private stuff? You mean you've mentioned stuff we should have kept to ourselves? Yes. Brad. It wasn't intentional at first, but it happened. I'm that comfortable with him. I trust and like him a lot. I think him incredibly appealing, I see. So you admit you have been unfaithful to your heart? How far have you gone in other ways? I'd think it's too far. We haven't slept together yet, but things are progressing. It's fairly close, really. We spoke about going further. You are planning that, correct? Is that what you mean? Yes. Brad, we have made plans. Sort of. He spoke in a dreary tone. Yes, it is pretty much fixed in stone. But we both want this to happen. Good. That you did not say you needed it. Is he married? I will not tell you that, Brad. I will not say who he is. I got it. You want to leave me guessing who of the men I know is betraying me? You do not regard that as disgraceful. I have to question every man I meet, wondering if he is secretly seeing my wife. That's some form of love. It's more like not caring. Nobody respects me. There is no staying true to me, nor is there any concern for my loyalty. At the very least, you are honest about your motivations for wanting him, selfish as they may be. I don't see it that way, Brad. I guess you're mistaken. Overreacting. Forget it. Want it or not. You've made yourself and this other guy the priority in your life. I'm just an extra for you now. Barely. There. Our marriage is an extra for you as well. With all of your intelligence, I expected you to consider the consequences of playing around. This is not a joke, Brad. It is. You've been close to this guy for a time. You expressed it yourself. We have not slept together. So, do you honestly believe that's all there is to cheating? It's not the hard part. That's what destroys love. It removes all trust and respect. When you cheat on your heart, that is what really hurts. Doing things is just the last step, the horrible finish. So how do you believe this will affect us later on? Jesus, Brad, are you going too far? Maybe. It makes perfect sense to me. But you perceive it as going too far. I don't see myself doing anything negative in the future. Are you planning a brief encounter with him soon? Yes, later. No. Then you are not truly thinking. You're so focused on what you want that you've lost my respect. I can't handle it, Brad. It does not matter what you believe right now. So, what is the plan? Going out, a weekend getaway, holidays alone? What's the deal with your new guy? Please tell me, Vicky. Vicky made a face and exhaled deeply. 2 weeks on Aruba. Starting next Saturday, we will fly off at 6 a.m. Aruba? Yes, so it's already finished. Brad realized. Looks like it. Vicky nodded. Wow. Vicky, do you ever think about others? What did I do to receive this from you? Who are you, even? Calm down, Brad. It isn't that horrible. He couldn't keep his cool anymore. Do you think this is okay? You are wrong. You threw away 20 years for a fling. Why? It isn't like that, Brad. But it doesn't have to be. It is just for fun. Vicky, you are silly. It's so foolish to think. That is all you view it as. What happens next? You are your own individual. You're going to toss it at me too. That's all there is, Brad. Vicky, this is just a bit of fun for you. Just to you. What will we tell our children? How do you think they'll feel knowing their mother prioritized this over their family? They know already. They know how much? Everything. The travel too. They've known since the start. I did not hide it from the beginning. His voice sounded quite soft now. Months? Yes. So when we celebrated our 20th anniversary, they knew. They said nothing. They kept things quiet for me. I asked them, "Have you inquired?" They did not mind. Initially, they did. Then they decided it wouldn't matter. Times have changed, Brad. They are part of this new reality. It's no big thing for them. They aren't losing anything. In 3 weeks, we will still be ourselves. Nothing will change that. Simply think about it. I am not going anywhere, Brad. Just taking some time for myself with a friend, that is all. It won't hurt if you don't allow it. You're stupid if you think I'd agree to this. Vicky. Brad said this while standing up. He got out his phone and contacted his 2 children, who were both attending college on the same campus. They picked up quickly. Mark, Jennifer. He started attempting to maintain his calm. Your mom and I are talking about Aruba. Mark jumped in. He wasn't astonished. He knew his mother was going to inform his father tonight. After all, his mother had advised him and his sister how to approach their father about the situation. Yes, Brad replied, his voice tense. Did you know about your mother's plans? We did it, Dad, Jennifer responded calmly. She has been telling us for months. Why haven't you told me? Don't I deserve to know that your mother intends to end our marriage? Don't you care? Brad was upset. Dad, Mark said, it's fine. This stuff happens, especially with long-term partnerships. It's not that horrible. Relax. Relax. Do you, Jennifer, agree with him? We promised to let Mom tell you. Jennifer said it isn't fantastic, but she really wants it, okay? She's earned some independence. Dad, I know it hurts like we don't care about you, but that's not the case. Brad hung up and turned off the phone. I earned this. So my children think it's acceptable to betray me too. They don't mind if you break my heart, our marriage, or our family. They show no regard or loyalty to me, despite smiling and stating they love me on our anniversary. Wow. Brad, chill. You're making a huge issue over nothing. Brad shot a peek at his wife. I cannot express how badly you have let me down. It's not cool that you also convinced the kids to side with you. Wow. You've taken away all I adore. You have left me with nothing to care about. Brad stood up and moved to the pool's edge, leaving her behind. Vicky's telephone rang. It was Jennifer. Vicky responded, her gaze remaining fixed on Brad. Not now, Jen. You and your brother. Please wait a little bit. Yes, your father is angry. More at you than at me right now. Please wait. He will be difficult to calm down. No, I will not change my opinion. Whatever. You and Mark have to wait. Vicky hung up immediately as Brad stepped in. She considered following him, but decided to let him be. Brad ignored her and headed to his office. He locked the door and went to the family computer. He quickly checked the bank online. He discovered a fresh shock. Vicky had used their split funds to help pay for a trip to Aruba. She did not pay the full sum, but it was still a significant amount. She spent their money, not her own. She intended to cheat and make him pay. Now, furious, he paid off their shared credit cards, canceled them, and transferred all of their money to his own bank account. He went on to modify the username and password for his personal bank accounts. He knew he'd have to wait until Monday to visit the bank and empty the safe box he had. Then he reviewed his stock account. He and Vicky had separate ones. His was fine, so he just updated the account and password. Next, he examined the trust for the children's school funds. Brad had complete control over it. He took it all and transferred $600,000 to his own bank. His children were grown up. They may pay their own costs, or their mother could assist them. He didn't care anymore. After that, he attempted to gain access to Vicky's computer, trying to discover who she was seeing on the side. Then he paused. Did it really matter who the other guy was? He considered it and determined it didn't. Vicky's actions were her responsibility. She picked this course completely on her own. Then Brad had another idea. He was not foolish. Even if Vicky believed he was still in his marriage, he may have overlooked indicators that it was in jeopardy. But that was personal information. Business was different in business. You sometimes had to play dirty to win. It included the giving of gifts or bribes, and keeping those away from the tax collectors means storing money in distant locations. Brad possessed 4 such accounts, one of which was solely for his use. He even stored credit cards in his office desk. After some more deliberation, he returned to his bank online and transferred all of his funds from his primary bank to his distant bank. He scheduled it for Tuesday night. He had time for the trust fund money to be sent to his account, but he hesitated, thinking about it again in a new window. Brad halted his progress to his bank. He selected an offshore account for the transfer and scheduled it for midnight. Sure, there would be a record of where the money went, but no U.S. court could access it. He could not be taxed because he had already paid what was owed. There was no trouble from them. He went back to his bank's website, scheduled the transfer for midnight, and clicked Go. He next examined his investment account. Closing it meant losing some money, but he shifted what was remained offshore for midnight, ensuring that his money was safe for the moment. He'd wind up with $10 million by tonight. His business is now registered as an LLC. On paper, he was not the boss. His position was the same as any other employee, with his parents as the owners. Vicky might sue for it in a divorce, but she had no legitimate claim. The business would be registered in his parents' names, keeping her out. They would almost certainly oppose her. The goal was to keep it safe until his family could sell. Brad heard Vicky at the door, wondering if he was all right. He remained quiet. She found the door to be locked. After a few attempts, he gave up and walked away, most likely expecting to join her outside later. He grabbed his phone and dialed his father. "Dad? Yeah, I am whispering. Can you hear me? All right. Good. Is the old house empty? I need it. I'm leaving Vicky. She has been with someone else for a time. Mark and Jennifer were aware, but only told me after I asked them less than an hour ago." Brad hung up the phone and swung around in his chair, ripping out several folders from the filing cabinets. He took out his last 3 years of tax returns, his car registration documents, his old Army paperwork, the house deed, and his passport. He took his briefcase, slipped his car, paper, and Army document inside, and then copied everything else. The originals were promptly returned to the cabinet. He also collected all of his business documents and shoved them inside his briefcase. He hesitated, considering what else he may require, and then returned to his computer. He decided to dig deeper. Because the phone plan was in his name, he disconnected Vicky and the kids' phones and set it to shut down at midnight. Both of his children had automobiles that he paid for, not anymore. His wife, who had made him so angry, could now pay those debts. Then he checked through his insurance documents. He dropped Vicky, Mark, and Jennifer from their auto insurance. Allow Vicky to handle it on her own, including paying for the children. And he took care to remove Vicky as the person who would receive money if something happened to him. Instead of his parents, he found a thumb drive in his desk and copied all of the necessary files from the computer to it. He packed more items into his case after obtaining what he desired. He cleaned up the PC and installed a simple Windows operating system. Vicky would need to pay someone to get it back, how things were. She'd lose many of her apps. Vicky disliked laptops, so she left them at work. She would have to wait until Monday or go get it. He shut off his own laptop, grabbed its cord, and placed another call with precise instructions. Brad then locked his case, grabbed his laptop and cables, and left the office. He did not look for Vicky. He took the additional car key from the wall, opened the garage, and unlocked his luxury car. He threw his belongings in the trunk. Brad then took 2 large bags from the garage and packed them with clothes and suits for an hour in the bedroom. Vicky never came to check on him. He suspected she may be outdoors, but he didn't mind. He took his wallet, keys, iPad, and all of the cords before exiting the room. He placed the bags in the car's trunk and the outfits in the back seat. He thought hard, wondering if he had forgotten anything. Then it struck him. He recalled one more thing he needed. His folks gave him a little, old bottle of scotch for his birthday. He had not opened it yet, but he knew he couldn't leave it. Brad returned to the house, grabbed the bottle, and removed 3 shiny glasses from the drink shelf. Then he thought, why not? He walked into the garage and found some boxes for transporting bottles. He and Vicky enjoyed their nice wine, and he didn't want to leave it all behind. He also took 3 tall wine glasses. Brad packed the crates. He then brought them to his car and placed them in the back seat. He didn't even bother closing the house door to the garage. Brad got into his car, opened the garage door, and drove away, leaving it open. Vicky was nowhere to be found. Vicky had waited outside for him to return. She knew he would. It would only take a few moments for him to calm down before he could speak further. She and Brad had a habit of speaking up during confrontations, and today was no exception. It's the same as always. They did not agree. Neither of their previous disagreements had ever harmed their relationship. And in all their years together, he had never been angry at her for too long. Brad had every reason to be upset with what she told him. Indeed, he did. It was to be expected and something they could handle. She would not blame him for feeling the way he does right now. God, if she were in his place, she'd be distraught and absolutely broken. But Brad's affections were stronger than hers. He'd always been. He was the strong person in her life. However, there was no easy way to tell him, and she did not believe she had made her intentions as plain as she could have. At the very least, she informed him early. It would have been far worse had he found out later. He had 6 days to consider it. 6 days to calm down and recall their marriage was still strong. Brad realized he needed to know how much she loved him. To her, there was no better man on the planet. He was aware that she shared his sentiments, even though they had both stated that they would only be with each other. She wasn't joking when she mentioned that things are different these days. Time moves on. People's thinking styles evolve. As you become older, your mind also changes. However, this does not imply that love changes. That remains the same. She loved Brad and always would. This small thing she wanted to accomplish was simply a minor hiccup in life. It was not a huge deal. However, she was a little cruel to the children. It could seriously damage him, and he wouldn't recover quickly. She was only his wife, but those children were his flesh and blood. He'd done everything for them, loved them, pushed them to be their best, and provided whatever they required. He never complained. Yeah, the use of children in this manner was inappropriate. Brad might never let it go, but she could handle it. The children were critical to her plan. They were her strategy for persuading Brad to change his mind. If he remained away for the following 6 days, he'd be quite lonely. He'd have to witness how awful life would be without his family. Brad was a man who needed people around him, particularly his family, so he'd be angry and wounded for roughly 6 days. But then he would reach out to the children. They'd make him remain. It was difficult for Brad, but she could handle it. Vicky had a fairly decent idea what he was doing at his office. He wanted to make sure his money was protected. It made sense. Brad was intelligent and cautious. He was presumably also planning on staying in a hotel for a few days. She knew this was going to happen. She'd miss him this week, but it had to happen. Brad needed to experience being alone. He couldn't be away from his family for long. He adored them too much. In his heart, he needed them as much as they did him. Vicky was convinced Brad would consider leaving. He would talk about it, perhaps even declare he would do it. He might even begin to leave her, but put an end to things for good. Vicky did not think so. Not over a minor error. Why? She couldn't say anything since she was so confident, but she was. She'd have fun and then confront Brad's decision when she returned. Her plan was straightforward, a brief joyride. Brad then gave me the silent treatment for a week or two. This meant no hugs or kisses, just stillness. 2 weeks at most, with everything planned out. He wondered if she considered what this meant in the long run. She did. For months. She mulled it over in her mind, imagining how Brad would react. Brad was a proud man who could be extremely stubborn, but she knew his resistance couldn't endure. It never did. Not in 20 years. Things would shift between them, but not all. Change is awful. Yes, he trusted her less now, but they could fix it in time. Furthermore, she had an idea. Brad may spend 2 weeks with her sister Sarah. Brad admired Sarah a lot. In all honesty, Sarah was more gorgeous and appealing than Vicky. Anyway, Sarah had agreed to hang out with Brad for 2 weeks to soothe his injured feelings. It would bring things almost even with Brad. Close enough. At least Brad would appreciate the thought. Even if he answered no, he may see it as Vicky's way of putting things right. It was doable. Vicky's thoughts turned back to why she was doing this. It wasn't like she needed to, and she didn't fall head over heels for the guy she chose. Yeah, he was attractive. Smart, had a fantastic personality and could make her laugh. She had a high level of faith in him. He was engaging and would probably be enjoyable to be around. It was not about appearance at all. Then what? I'm certainly not bored with life. She is also content with her romantic relationships. Brad was competent in that area. She was not attempting to replace any emotional voids that Brad had left. Her 20-year relationship with Brad had exceeded her expectations. So why did Vicky let out a sigh? The truth was that she didn't have a valid explanation. Nothing to make sense of. At the very least, it was a matter of determining whether she could do it and convincing Brad. A test. Stupid for sure. Careless? Yes. Cold? Yes. Even cruel. Could she lose her marriage? Maybe there was a risk. Was it worthwhile? No. But she was going for it regardless. So how come? She couldn't really tell. That bugged her a little. It wasn't enough to stop her. Vicky would have felt better about her decision if she had understood why she was doing it. She didn't, but she was prepared to go ahead with it. Brad would be hurt, but Sarah would help heal some of his pain. She might even be better in bed than Vicky herself. Another gamble. Vicky didn't understand why she enjoyed risk so much. It was a mystery to her. She wanted to spend 2 weeks with her lover and then return to Brad. She was certain she would never abandon Brad for anyone. And she wasn't concerned about getting sick or having a baby. She and her lover were carefully tested. Sure, it was a little wild, but not too crazy. She let out a sigh, thinking about Brad. He should have come back. She decided to search for him. She was not surprised to find the office and garage doors wide open. His car was gone, just as she suspected. How long will he be away? In their bedroom. She saw. He stole a bunch of things, and in the living room she saw the drink was missing, including some wine and that large Scotch bottle from his parents. This was not like him. Brad did not drink to avoid difficulties. This was a fresh aspect to him. Brad arrived at his parents' old property before they did. He had everything set up in the correct rooms before they arrived. The house was old, from 1910, but in decent condition. Aaron, his father, kept it in good condition by spending a lot of money to repair it up. It was a large, pleasant Victorian house in a nice neighborhood with 2 stories and 2,500 square feet of living space. We even had working fireplaces. His parents believed it was too huge for them right now, so they reduced the team size while keeping the house so only a few people could live there. Brad often considered buying the house from his parents, but Vicky was adamantly opposed. She felt strange about the house for some reason. It gave her an eerie feeling. Vicky always referred to it as the Halloween house. Just being there made her skin crawl, and not in a good way. Brad, on the other hand, adored the house. He had grown up there, so it made sense. A tap on the door made him giggle, though not in a good manner. About 10 minutes later, his parents entered. "Brad, are you here? Brad, when did you get your pickup truck?" his father yelled inside. Brad came out of the kitchen, hugging his mother and shaking hands with his father. "Got a truck?" his father asked again. "No, Dad," he answered, moving away from his mother. "It's only for show. I had several of my security personnel bring it here. It's a new vehicle from my fleet. I believe Vicky will come by, see the truck, and assume someone else lives here." "That's clever," his mother said excitedly. "Okay. What about Vicky being unfaithful?" she pressed. They all moved to the kitchen and began unloading the food supplied by Brad's parents. "There is more in the car, son. We got you curious. And some coffee. We also have some mugs. I'm not sure what you have here to use. Go for it, Aaron. I need to listen to what Brad has to say. I'll help him." "Mom?" I did not tell him everything, and I would rather say it once. Soon. They were all seated around the kitchen table enjoying fresh coffee. When Brad finished telling his story, his family was stunned, and his mother's face flushed bright red. Brad's parents were young when he was born, and they are now in their late 50s, still strong and energetic. "Brad, sweetheart, I want to hurl every bad thing at your wife." "I would too, if your father didn't get so upset by bad words," she said with fire. Aaron sat back, raising an eyebrow. "Stop, Aaron. You know you don't like it when I use bad language. Yes, it bothers me, but maybe just this once." "It's fine," he said. Grace huffed. "It certainly is," she snapped. "But I will not do it. Thank you, Mom. It is not worth it." "Correct or incorrect? And the kids were aware of it all?" she asked. "Yep. From the beginning. They told me 4 months ago that they were aware of Vicky's situation and were fine with it. They believe she has the right." Grace nearly spat out her words. "Kids these days. Brad, what is wrong with them? You should have punished them more when they were younger." Bradley shook his head. "Have you ever used a belt on me?" he asked. "Did you ever hurt me or your father?" She shot back. "No. Here you go. Such awful children. It's shocking what they've done." "Okay, Grace, calm down," his father murmured. "Let's think about how we can help." "All right, but I might put a belt on them later. I'll help Grace, but only later." "Okay. Brad, are you staying here?" he asked. "Yes, if I can. This residence is yours for the rest of your life." Even his mother spoke. "Thank you, Mom, but I do not think I will remain long. Maybe 1 week. I need some alone time. Maybe travel distant for a while. A month, perhaps 2. "Just thinking about Aruba?" his mother inquired. "Hopeful. Are you going to find them and deal with the guy?" "No, Mom, not Aruba. Do you know who Vicky is with?" "Nope. To be honest, I do not want to know." "Do you think you'll ever forgive Vicky? Perhaps make up?" "No, Dad. She has been with him for 4 months. They say they haven't slept together, but do you believe her?" "It does not matter, Dad. She had planned this. Our marriage vows are breached. She pretended we were happy on our 20th birthday. Even the children were aware of the situation and participated." Grace spit out the kids. "So, divorce?" "Looks like it. I need to figure some things out before seeing a lawyer. Divorce will devastate my finances. I despise the thought of compensating Vicky after what she did. I've moved my money about and switched my life insurance to you and Mom. The college money for the children. Gone. Vicky can handle it or the kids can work. I'm not giving any more. Place my money in an international account. So what, Brad? We've saved some money for their graduation presents. That is your decision, Mom. Your money. That's it, Brad. I do not want them to have it. They do not deserve it, Mom said fiercely. That is your option. They're your grandchildren. They haven't harmed you. That's not true, Brad. They harmed our son. Dad spoke. Brad shrugged. It is still up to you. Brad's phone vibrated on the table. He ignored it till it subsided. Then he checked it for a bit. Was it Vicky on the phone? No, Mark. I just blocked her phone number. Jennifer's too. I don't need to hear them right now. Have they left you any messages? Yes, from the children. Voice messages. I do not want to listen to such either. There was no response from Vicky. Soon it won't matter. They will be unable to make a call after tonight. I removed their phones from my plan. That plan is also expiring this week. I'll be getting a new one next Monday or Tuesday. How about your work, Brad? What are you going to do? His father inquired. You and Mom own it, so you have a say. We do not know anything about your work, Brad. I'm thinking about selling it. I've been tinkering with that idea for a while. I fantasized about leaving work early, convincing Vicky to agree and seeing the world for a few years. His mother said that would have been an excellent trip. Not anymore. Did I mention she paid for her trip to Aruba using our common bank account? She did what? What the hell, Grace? Stop it, Aaron. That is just... Wow, what is wrong with her? Cheating is terrible enough, but make him pay. Someone should give her a lesson. I agree. But the F word. Really? Grace, be strong, Aaron. I really can't stand her right now. Give me a break. Okay, sweetie. No more F words, please. Okay, fine. For you and Brad. Good. So, about the work. Do you have someone in mind who could sell it to Brad? Yes, a guy who has been fascinated for the past year. I intend to call him and meet in person. Is he from here? No, he is from Tokyo, Japan. Yes, a trip to Tokyo might be just what I need now. That's quite a journey. I will not stay there, Mom. I'm just going for a little while. For how long? I am not sure. Maybe a few weeks. Then what? Brad just lifted his shoulders. Not sure. Not yet, at least. Let us have dinner. I am starving. His father explained that after they ate, his parents cleaned up with him before leaving. Brad shut the door and turned off the light outside. Mark had called his father several times. He felt awful for not blocking his mother's ridiculous proposal. He felt even worse about not telling his father. But was it such a big issue at their age? Wow. They had been together for 20 years. Dad must have realized Mom didn't want to hurt him. It was simply something she wanted to attempt. It wasn't a big deal. So why worry? Mark called his sister. "Hello, it's me. Have you tried phoning Dad?" "Yeah, he isn't picking up. I believe he blocked us." "Yeah, Mom said he didn't want to talk right immediately. That's not to say he shouldn't. We botched up, Mark. We should have told Dad from the beginning. Does it matter, Jen? Mom wants to do this. Say we told Dad and he stopped her. Would that prevent her from trying again? But could it be sneakier?" "I do not know, Mark. I honestly don't know. But we needed to inform Dad. He believes we no longer love or care about him. That is not true. No, it is not. Yes, he must be feeling quite horrible right now. Have you spoken to Mom again? What's occurring at home?" "I called her. She claimed he had left. He took a lot of clothing and alcohol with him." "Who is Dad?" "Yes, that old scotch from Graham and Gramps, and plenty of wine. She believes he's in a hotel somewhere. I plan to drink a lot." "Wow, I can't see Dad being drunk. I've never seen him like that." "No, it is not like Dad." "Do you think he'll come home before Mom leaves?" "I have no idea. Why would he do this? Stop her from going. Perhaps you could chain her to the bed." "Ha! I don't see Dad doing that. It would be humorous, though. I really can't see him returning home until next Saturday unless he needs additional items. I imagine he waits for her to get to work, assuming he bothers." "Mark, this is terrible. We are dreadful. Dad must think we dislike him. What if he harms himself? Like, what?" "I do not know. He is alone, drinking old scotch and wine. Anything can happen. I think if he mixes the wine with the scotch, he'll become sick." "Do not be mean. Do you understand what I mean? Calm down. You are asking me questions I cannot answer. Please relax, okay? I'm going to phone Grandma and ask if she has seen him." "I would not do that, Jen." "Why not? If Dad told her we agreed with Mom, Grandma may be furious with us. She would not do that. Have you ever seen Grandma get really mad?" "Yes, I have. I'm not going to risk it. I made no calls to Grandma." "Are you scared?" "Yep. Better terrified than hurt. I am not taking that chance. Screw you, Mark. I am calling Grandma." Jennifer hung up. Mark did not anticipate phoning Grandma would go well. Jen returned the call 5 minutes later. "Ma, Grandma is very angry. She yelled a much. I believe she broke my ear. I don't have an eardrum anymore. It now functions similarly to a tambourine. She kept yelling about the belt and the blisters. What do we do?" "I avoided Grandma for a long time. Be real. I do not know. Perhaps call Mom." "No. It is her fault." "Yes. But where could Dad be?" "No idea." "Jen, perhaps an old house." "No, it is rented out. I assume there is a 3-year lease or something. He might be in a hotel. Perhaps he's at his workplace. Maybe sleep on a sofa or something. You're not very bright." "Our dad is sleeping on a sofa. Are you always that stupid?" "Yep. It's a difficult task to stay up, but I do my best. I am serious." "And you are cracking jokes?" "Yes, Jennifer. When I'm terrified, I tend to do this. Then you must be terrified all the time." "I guess we should return home like tomorrow. We need to find Dad and work things out with him. Mom says it's too early for that. She suggests we wait for him to calm down a bit. And if his mother had been correct, none of this should be occurring. She should not be cheating on Dad." "Okay, sure. She should not cheat, yet she does. You and I cannot change that. She needs to stop, but she will not. Not soon. What are our plans if we return? Expect more falsehoods from Mom. I do not want to listen to her anymore. Do you know how she can make us do whatever she wants?" "Fine, Dad. He might just fetch a gun and shoot us, so what's your plan? What do you suppose would happen if we went home?" "I'm not sure, but I have to attempt something. Maybe I'll just holler at Mom. But I must try. I can't believe I was fine with her cheating. I can't believe I kept it from Dad. Mark, it's eating me up. I need to try something. Anything goes. Whatever happens. Jen, do whatever you believe you need to. I believe it is a waste of time. However, that is all up to you. Me? I'm going to call Mom and try to make her see sense." Brad was sitting at the kitchen table, enjoying a very old scotch, when his phone rang. He'd been there for hours, sipping alongside the scotch. A full third of the bottle had gone. Brad was furious since he wasn't even getting a buzz from what he'd drunk. He should feel something. It was his body's fault, really. It could be a case of drinking too quickly. So he never felt intoxicated. He drank less as a result. He didn't find drinking to be really beneficial. It seemed like wasting money and time. He spent hours alone. With bottle in hand, he reflects on his life. He recalled the first time he met Vicky, their wedding and children's births. He was there for them. The good and terrible times with the family, the expanding vacations, the business, and the dreams he and Vicky had. Everything felt like a waste, just left. Now. It all seemed like a bad dream. He was furious at how things turned out. When he saw who was calling Vicky's sister, he became more concerned. "What do you want, Sarah?" He didn't care about being kind anymore. "Brad, are you all right? Where are you now? Vicky claimed you had left. Did you know Sarah? What? What's she been up to? Why haven't you told me?" "Sarah, we were close. She's my sister, Brad. So she persuaded you to turn against me too. Great. It isn't like that, Brad. Yes, it is. Did your parents also know? Yes, Brad, they aren't happy, so everyone is against me. Brad, it's a little issue to you. Maybe. To me, it's enormous." Brad was furious now. His voice called, "Brad, where are you? May I see you?" "No, I cannot deal with any of you right now. I do not want you in my life. Stay away from me." Brad disconnected the call and blocked her number. He even blocked all phone numbers for his wife's family. "Cut me apart from them. Forget them all. Mom, this is Mark." "Did you hear from Dad?" Vicky made a face. "No, Mark, I do not think I will. Not for a few days, at least. Have you heard from him?" "No, Mom. He blocked both my and Jen's phones. I don't think I will hear from him again. Mark, stop being so over the top. Your father is agitated and angry. He has the right to be. However, this does not mean the end of the world. No, Mom, it is not. But it seems like the end of our family." "It isn't, Mark. You're just being selfish and ignorant. How dare you speak to me like that?" "Why not, Mom? I should have stated it long ago. You are being really selfish and cruel by doing what you did, and now you're exacerbating the situation by traveling to Aruba. Fix this before you completely damage our family. Jan is planning to return tomorrow. Why would she do that? She is returning to find her father and apologize to him. I believe she also wants to talk you out of this crazy vacation. Mark, I've had enough of you talking to me like that. Too terrible, Mom. Don't you think what you're doing is disrespectful to all of us? How about we say disgraceful, not simply rude? I've heard enough from you, Mark. Maybe. However, you must address this issue quickly. This will not end as you expect. What do you mean? It suggests you do not have my support. You also lost Jens, Grandma, and Grandpa understand what's going on. Grandma threatened she'd lash us all. Vicky laughed. I will arrest her if she tries. Do you think Grandma is worried about a few days in jail? You're insane if you do. Listen, Mom, stop this mess and reconcile with Dad. Stay here, find him and ask for his. Sorry, do it, Mom, or I'll be done with you. What, you do not mean that? Yeah, I do. I feel terrible. I was not there for Dad. He needs us. If you don't cease this, you will lose me. Maybe Jen, too. I mean it, Mom. Stop it. No. Mark hung up. Vicky tried calling back, but he did not answer. Before she could leave a message, the phone rang again. It was her sister, Sarah. I'm kind of tied up right now. Mark is making a fuss. I just spoke to Brad. Vicky, it's ugly. What? What exactly did he say? Lord Vicky, he claimed he'd cut us off. Sarah, he's just mad. He's way past, just mad. Way beyond his voice. Vicky, he's hurt, yet his voice was cold and his words were serious. You didn't realize how angry he has become since. He is completely serious about dropping all of us, including Mom and Dad. You need to stop messing with him now. Was he drunk? No, he was clear-headed. Brad is quite angry, Vicky. We've never seen anger like this. Man, his voice terrified me. Vicky sighed. Why is everyone going overboard? That's rubbish, Vicky. I'm still shaken by what he told me. I don't understand why you're doing this, but if you don't stop, you'll lose him for good. Every one of us will. Don't be snarky at me. Keep going on that vacation or seeing Nathan, and you'll be done. For Pete's sake, it may have been since you turned his children against him. Why am I trapped with children? Vicky murmured. To heck with you. I'm attempting to save your marriage. And you're calling me a kid. To heck with you. Take a journey. You've made a bigger mistake than you already have. Get every negative thing going. Don't even consider of calling me when he dumps you. To heck with you. Sarah hung up. Vicky grimaced and dialed another number. Graham picked up, yelled a filthy name, and hung up. Vicky breathed out a sigh. That call went bad. She was more cautious with her next call. What do you want, dear? Did you inform Brad about your ridiculous plan? I did it, Mom. I suppose he didn't like your idea or what you'd done previously. No, Mom. He acted just what I expected. He departed our home with his clothes and computer equipment. I also consumed a significant amount of alcohol. Vicky, your father and I do not like what you've been up to or what you intend to do. It is awful. Have you talked to Mark? What? No. Why did he change his mind? Looks like it. He just told me that if I stick to my plan, he is done with me. Well, it appears that the youngster has finally grown a spine. Mom, that's not the way to talk about your grandson. I think otherwise. He has been leading us astray for the past few months. That's good to hear. He has some guts now. Brad has moved out. Got any idea where he went? No, Mom. I have had no word from him, and neither have the kids, since he informed them at the house. Sarah had just spoken with him. What did he say to Sarah? Nothing nice, it appears. He informed her he was done with all of us. You and Dad, too. That's not fantastic. It's only for now, Mom. I doubt it, Vicky. Have you ever seen Brad flip-flop or say something he didn't mean? No, never. So you know how this will end. Bet on it. By the way, have you checked your bank accounts? What about the children's school money? No, why should I? Vicky's mother laughed. Your father and I made a bet. What's the bet? I bet your father that Brad would withdraw all of the money, even the children's school fund, before he left. Vicky couldn't wait to hang up with her mother. She dashed to her desktop computer at home and booted up Windows. It appeared like it would take another hour. She yelled, shocked. Brad looked at the clock. It was 3:30 a.m. He had sat alone at the kitchen table for approximately 6 hours, reflecting over the previous night, every word Vicky uttered, every look she gave when discussing her plans for the weekend. He was upset by them. He felt irritated. She was upset that her children and family had backed her up. He drank a lot of scotch but didn't feel inebriated inside. He'd made a significant decision to sell his firm late at night. He'd written a message to a potential buyer in Japan, asking to meet in the coming weeks to discuss selling. The scotch made him think, but it did not alleviate his agony or soothe his mind. He then came to a significant realization. Vicky never said she loved him. When she told him the news the day before, stating, "I love you," was an important aspect of their marriage. They repeated that every day for 20 years. However, she made no mention of it yesterday or last night. Brad was lost in a fog, his head clouded from the cocktails. Despite his confusing ideas, he felt he should understand what was going on. Was she fed up with him desiring someone new, someone she already loved? She hadn't spoken it, so did that mean it wasn't true? She isn't saying "I love you" and is acting carefree. That had to mean he didn't matter to her, right? To put it another way, he wasn't important to her. And those two children. Why would they cooperate with Vicky's scheme? Couldn't they see what she was doing with him? How could they not predict how he would react to her lies? Would they simply turn their backs on him? Brad felt heartbroken. It turns that they sided with Vicky and duped him for months. They both didn't care that their mother was adulterous. Mark's words, "Lighten up. It's so easy to say when you're not the one who's left." And Jennifer, her mother, had it coming. Such meaningless, superficial, and chilly words. Brad saw no purpose in attempting to make sense of it anymore. Those two cared more about Vicky than for him, and nothing they say could change that brutal reality. That is it. They selected her over him. They could care less about him. He was on his own. I am now genuinely alone. No wife, no children, and no family. Zero. The life he knew and loved had ended. Finished. His new existence began immediately. It was up to him to decide what to make of it. He couldn't return to what was. It was completely gone. Brad normally kept his emotions veiled. He knew who he was and was comfortable with it. Vicky preferred to refer to everyone as friends rather than Brad, for Bradley. Being called a friend meant a lot more. He once had a pal named Greg Moore, a guy he had grown up with. They have been friends since they were children, but Greg developed lupus and died within a year. Brad was never the same after losing Greg. From then on, he only allowed his family to come near. Others were simply folks he knew, some more than others, but never true pals. His eyes. Vicky, Mark, and Jennifer were the only people he really cared about. He gave them his all, always. But it appears it was never enough for them. Why? What was the big deal for Vicky to walk away like this? Was not his love enough? Was he too boring for her? Was there anyone else she liked better? Did she believe she and the kids were too good for him now? Was he only money to them? Has he always been? She didn't provide a real reason. She just wanted it for herself, as if she needed some space, as if she were going to have her nails done or something. How could she believe he'd be all right with this? Do you think he would just move on and forgive? That is not who he was. He told her the truth. She grabbed everything from him. He never forgot or forgave, not her, not Mark, not Jennifer. He noticed his hands shaking and wiped a tear off his cheek. There were no tears. He didn't feel sorry for himself. He would miss his family, or what he considered to be his family. But he refused to let the deep melancholy overcome him. Nope, they would not govern over him. Nobody would. Vicky was someone he knew well. She appeared to know him better than she did. She felt she could damage him and then walk away. She felt a little short. Sorry from her would cure everything. Reverting to the past, she imagined she could get away with it. She thought she had him under control. But she was mistaken. Just because he didn't hold his anger before doesn't imply he'll let it go this time. Drunk or sober, his rage would not subside now. Damn cheating woman. If he wasn't suitable for her, so be it. Her loss, his life was his. And as the adage goes, she did not own him. No, they could throw him away, but he didn't have to keep quiet. He might stand up, dust himself off, and simply leave. They claimed he meant nothing to them. They no longer held any significance for him. Not anymore, he simply forgets them. Difficult to do. Yes, it is feasible. He was wealthy, after all. Thank you for seeing me, Brad. Irene, his mother-in-law, told him at lunch that Thursday that she didn't think he'd do it. I'm still trying to figure out why I said yes to your call at work. Irene, here it is. I'm not sure what to think. Irene grabbed Brad's hand across the table. Brad, you're like the son Bert and I never had. I know you think Bert and I helped Vicky make a horrible decision, but I want you to know we didn't. We both disagree with what she did and plans to do. Please believe Brad felt certain Irene wasn't lying to him. Irene always told it like it was. Never attempted to make things sound better or blamed others. He could not conceive of anyone more straightforward than Irene. Irene gave him a sweet, sad smile. We attempted to talk her out of this foolish plan. Brad hoped it would calm things down and help her realize her error. If that failed, we hoped she would remember you and back off before it was too late. I understand it sounds bad, but we didn't want you to be wounded if we could avoid it. Brad kept quiet for a while. I see why someone as long married as I am could be curious. Maybe a little flirtation. That is it. We all enjoy a little attention. He paused. Irene only gazed at him, waiting. But Vicky understood how I felt about keeping committed. No cheating ever. It was our rule. For 20 years. 4 months ago, she changed everything without saying a word. She simply decided to do what she wanted. Ignore the consequences. I can't figure out why. I have no idea why she would begin this affair. I wish I could explain why, Brad. But I cannot. You've probably figured what everyone thinks. She is doing this because she believes she can, believing you'll simply take her back. Forgive her. Brad's expression was angry. That is not going to happen, Irene. Not now. The kids, Irene asked. Yeah. Why would she put me through this? She could have concealed it from them. They did not need to know from the outset. She dragged them into the turmoil. Why did they keep this from me? Irene let out a large sigh. It's difficult to say, Brad. Vicky's messed things up with them. However, when you ask them, they see no harm in Vicky's actions. They've assured me and Bert that they believe it will not disrupt your marriage. That's how young people appear to think these days. Brad's expression was harsh. Do you talk to them? Yep. Bert and I made numerous attempts to communicate with Mark and Jennifer. I didn't modify anything. She exhaled once more. You should also know that Mark and Jennifer have met the guy Vicky chose several times. They appear to be comfortable with him and give him a thumbs up. Are you kidding me? Don't become furious at me. I just found out last night that Vicky and Jennifer came over for dinner. Vicky requested that her friend accompany her, but we declined. Bert and I don't support what she's doing to you. Do you know this friend? We do. You do not know. Vicky made sure Mom knew his name. His name is Nathan Trumbull. Brad recognized the name but couldn't match the face. I do not know him. Vicky identified the person as familiar. You've met him a couple times at our apartment. He works with Bert and has shown up at several of our gatherings. You've definitely talked to him. Yes, he did not stick in my mind. Then I wouldn't know who he is, even if he sat next to you. He's major news at Bert's workplace. Top dog. Really? Bert had a conversation with him which did not go well for you, I'm afraid. Nathan has a knack with words and charisma. He politely apologized to Bert for making things difficult for them with his new relationship with Vicky. But the decision to be with Vicky was mutual, and it had nothing to do with his job. Bert was stunned, but unable to say or do much. Nathan was hired before the organization established guidelines for acceptable and unacceptable behavior. So you can't really blame Nathan for what he's done. Bert cannot simply fire him for being with Vicky, not unless he wants to file a lawsuit for terminating him without cause. That sounds like a very awful idea, maybe. Perhaps not. To be honest, Nathan has put Bert in a difficult position. Bert definitely needs Nathan at work. I'm not sure what Nathan has planned for Vicky in the long run, but Vicky made it clear last night that she won't be with Nathan for much longer. Vicky told me straight out that Nathan is nothing in comparison to you in her life. That sounds like a bunch of lies to me. Bert and I both thought so. Nathan may appear overconfident, but you only get hints of it. He exudes confidence, which masks his overinflated ego. But he's pleasant to chat to. Is he married? No. And from what I've heard, he has never been. Are you thinking about checking in on him? No. It isn't worth the work or the money. That took Irene by surprise. You're not cool with it, are you? No. Irene's eyes widened. Then she began giggling. You have a plan, don't you? She exclaimed, full of excitement. Brad remained quiet, his expression toughening, which caused Irene to cease laughing quickly. Bradley, Duncan, I've been your buddy for 22 years, and you've never had reason to doubt my loyalty or concern for you. I promise you right now that anything you tell me or have already told me will be between us. I won't tell Bert until you say it's acceptable. Brad, you haven't left me behind. Neither has Bert. We are with you. Tell us anything, but know that it will stay with us. Brad took a moment to calm down. Okay, Irene, I trust you, and thank you. This week has been challenging. She gripped his hand tighter again. We love you, Brad. Bert agrees. You are our family for life, no matter what. You are one of us. Brad nodded. All right. No, I will not go after Nathan. I won't pursue him. I can't blame him too much. He's only taking what Vicky provided him. If she pushed him away, he wouldn't cause any problems. How much is he to blame? 30%? 40? 50? If you're thinking about divorcing Vicky, think again, but I can't remain with her or do anything with her after this. She ended things with us. But I don't want to waste time, energy, or money on a divorce that may stretch on if she fights it. What are you going to do then? Brad smiled. The Australians say, walkabout. I've decided to explore the world. I don't have to be divorced for that. Perhaps I will find anything that makes sense. Nothing here works anymore. Irene laughed. Vicky won't see it coming. Probably not. I understand how Vicky thinks. She believes she is in control. Prepare for anything. She is wrong. She has no authority over me and never will. I bet she never imagined I'd walk away and cut her and the kids out of my life. But that is what I am doing, Irene. They forced me out and now I'm cutting them off. Can you actually do that, Brad? Emotionally, I mean. Yes, I think so. For a long time, at least. I almost returned earlier this week, but I stopped myself. Why didn't you go back? When she told me she had cheated, she seemed very satisfied with herself. That made me very angry. I'll keep remembering how it made me feel. Also, my child didn't appear to care at all. There is nothing left for me there, Irene. That is why I did not go back. They could believe it's fine, but it's not. I cannot simply forget or forgive any of it. Wow. What a difficult situation, Brad. Yes, it is a mess. Will you be okay with money? Traveling can be costly. Bert and I are here if you require assistance. Thanks. I should be fine. I stole all of the money save Vicky's personal bank account and stocks. Everything I've taken is now far away. I will be all right, but thank you for offering. Did you leave the children there? College fund? No. They can now pay their own way. The same goes for their autos. They either pay or lose them. Irene laughed or assumed you would not go through with it. He also assumed you intended to kick Vicky out while she was gone in Aruba. You gambled on this. Yep. Good on you for accepting the money, even though Vicky contributed half to the college fund. Have you told the children? I haven't spoken to them since Saturday. I blocked their numbers. Vicky can cover their school and vehicles. I'm done with them all. That will shock them. Did you know Jennifer had been at home all week? No. You mentioned Jennifer being with Vicky yesterday night, but I didn't get it. Ah, well, she returned home last Sunday and got into a heated argument with Vicky. They have been fighting like cats all week. Jennifer has been looking for you everywhere, hoping to talk. Where did you hide? I was over at my parents' old home. I left a truck out front to keep everyone wondering, I replied. Irene chuckled. Is Jennifer trying to prevent Vicky from leaving on Saturday? She asked. Irene appeared bewildered and unsure. I really can't tell. Sometimes yes, other times no. Then they fight again. Vicky seems to always have the kids on her side, and that will not change. Jennifer feels awful. She didn't say anything to you, but it appears that she doesn't mind Vicky having a relationship with Nathan. You know, your kids like Nathan and don't mind him being near Vicky. Irene mentioned it. That's great. I said something without truly meaning it. Perhaps younger people don't perceive anything wrong with married people seeing each other. It sounds weird, but that's how things are, Irene stated. What about Mark? I asked. He hasn't talked to Vicky in a week. He informed her that if she continued to see Nathan, he would no longer be involved with her. But Jennifer said at dinner last night that Mark has been conversing with Nathan as if nothing is happening, especially after Vicky had given him a new phone. Mark doesn't seem to be furious at Vicky. More likely he is unhappy because you are upset and he is attempting to figure it all out. I realize my pronunciation is a little off. Irene attempted to explain. All I could do was shake my head as Irene continued. Vicky and Jennifer were acting quite courteous at supper last night. Vicky was clearly excited about her vacation, while Jennifer was, well, trying not to seem too enthusiastic about it. Maybe after dinner they both called Nathan, and from what I heard, the calls were all pleasant and polite. It kind of made me nauseous. She concluded, I get it. Vicky was eager to talk about her Aruba hotel excursion, but Bert and I just kind of zoned them both out. Really. They took the hint and left as softly as mice. I wish things were better, Brad. I agree, for sure. So, what's the strategy for Aaron, Grace, and the company? Everyone knows you're the true ruler there. Are they going to step up or what? No, they don't like the thought of working all the time. In addition, they are not in financial difficulty. I have someone in mind who might buy it. If everything goes well, they'll be rid of it by next month. Wow, that's huge news. Yeah, I do not see why I should continue to run it for them. I got it, Brad. And the voyage you're talking about, when does that start? Brad flashed a delicate, sorrowful grin and left for the airport soon. I'll arrive in Tokyo before Vicky takes off for Aruba. After Tokyo? Who knows? I expect to be gone for a long time, perhaps in a few years. I have a long list of places I wish to see. I told my folks about it. We'll meet somewhere someday. Years. Brad, you've got to promise me something. Keep us in the loop. Only us. Every week, Burton and I will find you on your quest. That is a deal. Maybe Aaron and Grace, too, if they can make it. Brad, you're not going to vanish on us. Vicky and the kids won't know. Nope. No words unless you say it's acceptable. Okay, then I received your emails. I will give updates from wherever I am. You tell Bert what you want. What about Sarah? Brad paused to consider. Give it time, Irene. I am not sure about Sarah right now. Okay, Brad, just don't be too rough on Sarah. She's very torn about this. What are your thoughts about quitting your marriage, Brad? You keep saying you're not going back, but what are you actually thinking? Do you believe Vicky will leave you since you left? Or do you believe she will wait for you to return? Brad just lifted his shoulders. I don't really care, Irene. She is free to depart if she wishes. The only money and belongings she can request in court are her own in our home. I do not mind. She can have the house. I'm fine with that. My lawyer can sign on my behalf if she wishes to sell it. He'll talk to her once she comes home. Sure, she might obtain some money from me through the courts, but she will never get it directly from me. She might be waiting for me, but she's wasting time. I am not going back. Irene, you need to acquire that. I will not go back to her. What about your children? Their key occasions include getting married and having children of their own. No, Nathan or anyone else she finds can be there for them. That sounds extremely severe, Brad. Maybe. Or not. I can't see everything properly right now. I might never find out that your wife and children do not care as much as you do. Perhaps they should have the same feelings for me. Who knows? They could learn something. Irene was quite depressed. She sincerely cared about her son-in-law. Do you know anyone where you're going? Nope, not a soul. After I leave Tokyo, I need that. A fresh start or reset. I just need to be around individuals who do not know me. I need to figure out if I am the problem. I am not sure what I need. But now Vicky seems to want something fresh. I do too. I want to start over. Irene had tears flowing down her cheeks. Are you not going to tell them what you're up to? Not anytime soon, at least. I'm just not sure if they'll care. Not really, you understand. But then I think, allow them to feel what I have been through. What goes around comes around, and I know Mark and Jen are fine with Vicky choosing someone else to take my position. I'm confident they won't miss me. Sorry for the tough conversation this week. That is okay, Brad. You are free to communicate with me in whatever way you like. This whole thing makes me really sad. It's all so ridiculous and nasty. None of this makes sense. No, it doesn't. But you can send a message to Vicky for me the next time you see her. Okay. Irene flashed him a gentle grin. Of course, what is the message? Brad grasped Irene's hand across the table and opened it. He slipped his wedding ring inside it. Just that, Irene. Tell her there's nothing else to say. Jennifer accompanied her mother to the airport after seeing her. Jennifer started going back to school. She used her automobile to call Mark's new phone. He picked up, sounding half drowsy. Yeah, hey, wake up. I just left Mom at the airport and am heading back to school. Do you have any plans today? Yes, I do. Forget your plans, Mark, and don't intend on spending any money. Dad took all of the money and went away. I can't get anyone to tell me where. I believe Grandma Irene knows because she met him last week. I'm not sure what I did, but she's scarcely speaking to me. Grandma gave Mom Dad's wedding ring yesterday, claiming that was all he wanted to say to us. She won't talk to Mom right now. I don't believe she is as angry as Grandma, but she is angry at us. Everyone. So is Grandpa. He told Mom and me to leave his house and not return. What? What? Listen, Mark, we don't have any money. Dad took the entire family's cash with him. He left only Mom's money. What? Is there no money? Yeah, we're broke. I asked Mom whether she would support our school expenditures, but she didn't say yes or no. She makes a lot of money, but she now has to pay all of her own bills. Dad used to do that. She stated that the house's tax is more than $90,000 and will be due soon. The money should have been ready, but Dad grabbed it. I'm not sure how much Mom saved from her employment, but it appears like we're in a difficult place. Do we need to seek loans for school? It looks like. We may even lose our cars. What? I assumed they were fully paid. No, they are not. And there are loans in both your and my names. Remember the documents from the car shop? Dad intended to pay for us with good credit, but he isn't here right now, and I doubt we'll get additional money from him. I've got approximately $1,500. You, perhaps $400. Is that it? Yeah. What about Grandmother Irene and Grandfather Bert? Can they help? Mom said she'd ask them when she gets back. She did not want to worry about money while on vacation, and they were too unhappy to communicate before she departed for Aruba. It's not looking good, Mark. This is seriously messed up. It is. Any idea where Dad went? Nope. But Mom stated the bank's safety box is also empty. He carries his passport. I believe he may have departed the country. As if you were transported somewhere else. Why would he do this? Do you think he is after Nathan in Aruba? I do not know, Mark. I can't find him. Have you told Mom? She should know, right? Just like we told Dad she was cheating. Hey, that is not the same. Dad might get angry. There is a big difference. Do you believe Dad would really go that far? Be violent? How would I know? He's mad, right? He has money. What else would a crazed rich man do? Man, how much would it take for some tough dudes in Aruba to really mess Nathan up? Only a few dollars. You're talking about the mafia. Do you understand what I am saying? Bad bastards, whatever. They could make it look like a heist or something. You hear about things like that on TV all the time. Do you mean the news? Whatever. TV. You must inform Mom. I can't tell Mom anything, you understand? I am driving and she is going to soar. You tell her. Fine, I will text her. Maybe Nathan can get a guard or something. Maybe they'll just stay in their accommodation or at the bustling beach. This is totally messed up. Mark, this is Mark, Mom. Jen and I believe Dad may be visiting Aruba at the same time as you. We believe he's after Nathan. Perhaps you too. This is bad news. I understand, but you must use caution. If Dad is around, exercise extreme caution. He might have someone target you. Jen and I are quite worried. Be careful. Vicky only noticed the message that night. She hadn't looked at her phone until she and Nathan arrived at their hotel room and relaxed in bed. Vicky, at least, felt fantastic because it was their first time together like that. Then they cleaned up and prepared for the beach. Vicky adored the beach. It was full of attractive men and ladies. Vicky didn't mind Nathan looking as long as he was okay with her doing the same. It seemed to rekindle their enthusiasm. She wondered why she and Brad had never been to a place like this. Wow, it would have been so romantic if she had received the text after they had eaten and gone to their room to prepare for the night out. She developed a troubled expression on her face. Was Mark serious, Brad? Nathan noticed her looking and asked her what was wrong. She showed him the message and Nathan turned white. Nathan disliked any form of rough stuff, not in novels or movies. That message caused them to forgo the club and instead go back to bed. Nathan preferred lovemaking to anything rough. Brad took a big breath. I was surprised by how different Tokyo smelt from home. It was also loud. He arrived there 3 days ago, speak with the individual he intended to sell his business to. And they came to an agreement quickly. Brad didn't want to profit from selling his company. Sure, there's some money, but it's not much. He mainly wanted the sale completed quickly in a location that did not share information with the United States. The money would subsequently be transferred to an account in the Caribbean. He came out and grabbed what Brad wanted without any conversation. They were both pleased with the agreement and were just waiting for the paperwork, which would be sent to his family for signatures, returned, and Brad would receive his money. His money manager in the United States would handle the tax issues. Brad expected to stay in Tokyo for another week or two. After that, he'd travel to either Hong Kong or Taiwan. He couldn't decide which came first, so he might just toss a coin. He'd miss his companionship. Over the course of several years, he developed it from scratch. Will he miss it more than his former family? He thought so. After all, the corporation had never disappointed him. When he returned to his hotel that night, he found an email from Irene waiting. He chuckled while reading the note. Always, dear Brad. Guess what? Something very amusing happened. I tried not to share, but I couldn't help it. Mark and Jennifer believe you fled to Aruba to harass Nathan and your foolish wife, and certainly they believe you are utilizing the mafia. Vicky texted a lot and called me upset, asking where I was. She is certain that I know where you are. Trust me. I told her nothing. Only Bert knows. She and her rough guy believe you are lurking in Aruba. They believe you're ruining their enjoyable trip. Vicky claims Nathan is experiencing problems because he is afraid of you. Boy, I thought this as amusing as Bert did. I attempted to take Vicky's calls seriously, but I ended up giggling so much. I did tell her that I wished you were in Aruba. Bert even joked with Nathan about using his company's dental plan if necessary. He said it quietly, too. Anyway, let us know what's up. Bert and I miss you very much. After Vicky's calls, we decided we liked you more than Vicky. I don't understand Vicky anymore. How sad, right? I told Grace and Aaron, too. Aaron laughed so hard. Grace also laughed heartily. I miss them. We'll be hanging out with them this weekend. Sarah overheard much of Vicky's conversation, so she knows. Please think about your concerns with her, Brad. She's quite angry about what's happening. Sarah, I honestly believe you can be trusted. Tell us what you decide. Perhaps we can arrange to talk by Skype, Zoom, or something else. I miss seeing your face and hearing you speak. Please let us know when you are free. Don't forget, you are our son. We adore you a lot. Irene, there was a 14-hour time difference between her home and Tokyo, with Tokyo being 1 day ahead. Brad pondered it over and then sent an email to Irene, scheduling a call for the following Saturday night. He asked Sarah if she could join the call as well, provided she wasn't already busy. Brad went around Tokyo, wishing that his family could witness everything alongside him. Vicky was right about one thing. He was not used to being by himself. For more than 2 decades, he had Vicky and his family. Previously, it was his parents. He had a job, too. And even though he barely knew his co-workers, they looked up to him and trusted him to steer the company in the correct direction. But here Brad was, alone in an amazing city, with no one to share it with. He recalled how much Mark would have adored the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, so he shot a photograph of the Tokyo Tower. Brad could almost see Vicky remarking that their trip felt like they were only seeing a small part of Paris. Or consider what their vacation might have been. Vicky? No, Brad himself. She made her decision, and it was not him. The hotel's sky bar provided a break from Brad's sorrowful thoughts. Some business people, already tipsy from a successful deal, invited Brad to join them. They had made a lot of money and would soon travel home to their families, so everything was fine in their world. For a few hours, Brad drank, talked, and recalled how family and joy used to feel. Brad would remember Evan Ralston for quite some time. Deep into the night, the two of them chatted about ex-Mrs. Ralston first. Evan laughed. That was a marriage from young passions. If our marriage had been based solely on sex, it would have been extremely strong. He drank a modest sip of sake. Brad moved the waiter closer to Evan, hinting at the difficult morning ahead. However, no marriage survives only on passion. We separated up before 2 years had passed, however. Those were several years. Ex-Mrs. Ralston number 2. I thought she was quite intelligent. Saw through all of my crap. Have you ever won a fight with her? There's no chance. I guess some person is famous for winning only once. Yet as smart as she was, she became a top lawyer and ascended quickly. Soon we barely saw each other. She was busy saving big names while I was inundated as a cop. After 5 years, it was over. I still see her occasionally. She's currently with a homebody. It fits her well. The third, Mrs. Ralston, was a big mistake. I realized it wasn't all about lust after 2. I learned the value of devoting time and effort, but she snatched it all away, even attempted to sip water, chuckled, then burst out laughing. When he calmed down, he explained, she was after my money. She fooled me, what I had missed back then. I felt I was prepared and jumped with the first person who showed interested. She made a fool of me. But Judy, she is all I need. It's been 15 years and they've all been filled with love. Without the first 3, I would never have met her. So what were we actually talking about? Both of them broke out laughing. Evan laughed because he was too intoxicated to think clearly. For Brad, it was an unexpected burst of fun that helped him forget about his unhappy history for a while. The foolish advice they gave was amusing, but laughing without thinking about his previous problems made Brad truly pleased. His laughter seemed like letting go of a lot of sadness. Vicky ended up getting a taxi from the airport. Nathan offered he could drive her, but she declined. I was hoping that Brad would be waiting at home. She realized the chances were minimal. At least he hadn't arrived in Aruba, or so she thought. The mere thought of Brad's presence had severely harmed her relationship with Nathan. Goodness, Nathan was definitely not in bed. Nathan performed well when he focused his attention, but not much happened during their 2 weeks together. Nathan became increasingly afraid as they approached the exit. What a chicken he was. And the way Vicky's parents spoke about her and Nathan over the phone was appalling. They could have been kinder, but they didn't. They laughed at our concerns. They even stated that they wished Brad was in Aruba. That made Vicky furious. But if she had to rate her trip, she'd give the location, the hotel, and the beaches 5 stars. It was better than she expected. Even with the worry of Brad showing up, Nathan, and what they did in bed, it could be a poor score. Sure. Nathan knew how to make a lady happy, but the idea of Brad being around didn't excite him. And romance. There was none. They had to cancel numerous plans because Nathan was too terrified. Why go after a wife if she is afraid of her husband? Anyway, Vicky was fine with what she did. It wasn't truly about Nathan. She needed to fix things. She had to put things right. She hoped she could mend everything and return to her happy life with the man she loved so much. But Brad had to try if he wanted his ring back. It was rude of him to have his mother call Vicky before leaving for Aruba. Vicky paid the taxi driver after he unloaded her baggage. She stood outside admiring her large, beautiful house. Letters were piled up by the door. Brad was not present and had not been Mom's. "Stay away from Nathan," Jen begged again. "Why? It's only for fun," Vicky was thinking, confused. Why? Jen kept repeating this for 2 weeks. Jen advised, "Avoid Nathan. If you want Dad back, you can't see him. I will terminate it when your father returns. Why can't I just have fun with Nathan? Until then. Because Dad will know and may not return. Do you want him back? Jen, Nathan is merely a friend of Mom. Dad will understand once he returns. Okay, Mom?" Mark attempted to reassure them as if the problem was easily fixed. "I'm not suggesting Nathan is horrible." Jen was at her limit. She clutched her head, trying not to lose it. "Dad's gone, And now that Nathan is here, he's unlikely to return, she yelled out. Vicky gazed at the youngsters, perplexed. Why could Jen not see it? Nathan was here. Brad wasn't. Vicky missed Brad, but he'd left without saying anything. If Brad had been present, Nathan might not have existed. That concept made me smile a little. Nathan wasn't particularly strong, but he did have his moments. Furthermore, Brad left them behind. Vicky stayed. She was here to keep their home alive. He was out there, not even attempting to rescue what they had. Silence. That was all she received from him. Mom, do you hear me? Jen's voice snapped. Vicky is back. Yes, you're not even paying attention as usual. Jen sighed. How dare you say that? Vicky felt her temper rising. You were not there for me, Dad. Jen spelled it out clearly. What was I supposed to do? He was just mad, Vicky argued. He said he couldn't live with this mess, but you didn't care. You did not listen back then, and you aren't listening right now. So what do you want me to do? Vicky was losing patience. Great. This is just horrible. Jen slumped onto the couch. She remembered doing something similar and anticipating a different outcome. Dad mentioned it. She said it. Even Grandma Irene and Grandpa Bert. But it didn't matter. Vicky returned to organizing the weekend with Nathan coming over. Jen pushed back tears. She had thought her parents could put things right, but the situation appeared to worsen with each passing day. Deep lie, she just wanted her father back. Brad was wandering through a marketplace. Brad felt exhausted and hollow inside. He was bored and unable to sit still. He'd been on the road for months, and it was beginning to wear on him. He missed his family greatly. It wasn't as bad as previously, but the missing component was present. He hoped Vicky was with him. Brad was seeking for something to rekindle his desire for a fresh start. He did not wish to roam around aimlessly. He needed something stable in his life. So yet, he hadn't discovered it. Sure, walking through various lands and cities was exciting. New sights, sounds, scents, and sensations. They were fine for a time. Even the difficult time he had in Beijing because he had already gone to Taipei, Taiwan, felt like a minor adventure. He almost chuckled as he remembered being questioned in Beijing. They just asked if he worked for the CIA. Brad had laughed, which made everyone in the room very annoyed. He had claimed that the CIA was greatly overhyped, which did not sit well with them. But after a few hours of interrogation, they released him. Brad had no idea whether they were keeping an eye on him in Beijing, and frankly, he didn't care. He believed they knew enough about him to look into his story. He considered returning to Vietnam and staying for a year or more. His grandfather was a Marine who had served 2 tours in Vietnam. He died there, but Brad didn't know where he felt compelled to return and further explore the country. He was now following in the footsteps of American bases in Southeast Asia established during the Vietnam War. This had led him to Thailand. He arrived in Bangkok from Ho Chi Minh City, what was previously known as Saigon, and then went straight north to Chiang Mai. There used to be an army base there. He discovered that the Green Berets were long gone. Then he traveled little southeast to knock on Farnham. This location had captured his attention. It was formerly a United States Air Force base for special missions on the border of Laos, close to Hanoi. This location was so important that it hired a C-130 plane to monitor the sky every night when it was dark. There was an older man who had previously worked with Brad. He used to be in the Air Force and now works part-time. Brad liked him right away, and they often ate lunch together. This man informed him about Knock on Phantom. In 1975, he served as a security officer. They called KP. It was a secret spot back then. Outside of their orders, Air Force personnel did not identify it. Just a code. Only those who had been would understand the code. He was in flight, working from dusk till dawn. Even in 1975, a year after the Vietnam War was officially over. There were nighttime clashes at that base. They didn't name them battles since the Air Force was not supposed to fight on the ground under 1947 guidelines. Outside an air base, only the Army or Marines could engage in ground combat. But it was a secret conflict that no one talked about. And the secret police officers battled it. There were no Army or Marines nearby in KP. The nearest help was 150 miles away in Conrad. So the policemen and KP took it upon themselves to keep their base safe. They frequently went into the bush to secure their territory, went out, set traps, and did whatever they felt was necessary at the time. Sometimes Viet Cong or Thai communists attempted to sneak into a CPP base and attack the planes, but they were unsuccessful. They were always apprehended before they could cause any harm. In 1975, two major attempts were attempted to take over in KP while Americans were present. There was a framework in place to deal with such threats, if they sent a red. Option 1, alert to correct. It suggested the base was being heavily attacked. They had 1 hour to return to base or depart. This was because Corps assistance would arrive with F-4 Phantoms ready to unleash firebombs all over KP. Both times they were able to stop the attack within an hour, but once it took nearly an hour to cancel the warning, and KP was not going to be given up easy. Brad was excited to see this location. A local guy drove him there, but everything had vanished, swallowed up by the jungle, leaving him feeling disappointed. He took a bus to the next location. Caw at the Corps at base was still present, but he couldn't go close to it, so he decided to stay for a while. It was simple to rent a house, and he planned to spend a month there before traveling to Bangkok. Kairat was a welcoming place for Americans. Walking through the city was a pleasant way to spend time. The markets were vibrant and colorful, but he often wondered what Vicky or the kids would want from them. During one market visit, something struck his attention. People surrounding began to stop, look, and then walk away. Brad was also watching. A fruit salesman was clutching a young boy's arm. The youngster looked to be no more than 10 years old, he guessed. The seller was furious with the youngster who clutched some kind of fruit. He got a firm grip on the youngster and was shaking him. Then a tiny child dashed up and smacked the salesperson in the leg. She was younger than the youngster and yelled something in Thai, which Brad did not understand. It was evident that the vendor caught the boy attempting to remove the fruit without payment. Both children had old, ripped clothes. Brad witnessed the entire incident when two cops arrived. Things became more serious. One cop became angry and yelled at the youngster in Thai. Even if you didn't understand the words, you could tell the cop was angry. Then he struck the youngster. The tiny girl was grabbed and shaken violently. She was crying profusely. Maybe she called for her mother or father, but no one came to aid them. Brad walked over without thinking. The cops and the salesman finally stopped yelling at the kids to look at him. Brad grinned as he held his palms out, indicating that he meant no harm. "Do you speak English? Sorry, but I don't know Thai. Can I chat to you for a moment?" Brad kept his voice relaxed and calm. An elderly cop approached Brad and pulled the girl with him. She was still crying heavily. "What do you want?" the officer inquired. He did not appear pleasant. "Brad is smiling. I only want to help, okay? The kids. Have they forgotten to pay?" The cop appeared stunned by the question. "Forget? What do you mean, forget?" Brad kept smiling. "What about the kids?" he said, pointing. "They assisted me in purchasing fruit." I asked them. "What did you get me?" "You're lying. They stole." "No prison for me," Brad replied strongly. "I will pay for the fruit." "How much?" Brad knew he didn't speak Thai, but he assumed that most people in Asia understood some English from school. Similarly, American children learn Spanish or French. He assumed that saying, "pay a lot," would make his argument clear. The merchant took the signal and pushed past the two cops. "Do you pay?" "Yes, you pay." His voice brightened with the sound of money. The cop looked at the merchant before turning to Brad with a hard glance. "You're lying. Do you want kids? That is what you're after." Brad felt his gut turn. "Are you out of your mind?" he snapped. "Are you unwell, kids? I should knock you out right now." Brad was so mad that he couldn't see straight. The thought revolted him. He wanted to lash out at everyone in the market. The elder cop observed. Brad then chuckled. Okay, he said, attempting to settle things down. "You don't want children, that is good. So what about the theft?" Brad took a time to cool down. "I will pay for the fruit. Let the seller determine the price." The officer nodded. "Good. Still, you stole. You too are ready to pay a fine." Brad took the hint. "I pay the fine and we are done. No jail, no report." The cop nodded again. "You pay then. It's all good. No jail, no papers. Done." Brad agreed. A smile. "I will pay. How much for the fruit and fine?" They waited in the scorching sun for almost 30 minutes trying to settle on a price. The seller ended up getting 3 times what a single piece of fruit was worth. "What about the police?" They wanted more. Brad paid in cash when all was said and done. Brad, it all cost him a little over $18 US. Not bad. Brad now had 2 tiny children with him. Both did not speak English, not one word. The small girl was crying and clinging on to the kid, who was staring at Brad. He smiled as he bent down to their level. "You guys hungry? Do you want food?" He made an eating gesture. The girl's weeping ceased and her eyes grew large. The child did not move until the girl pulled on his hand. They had a little conversation in Thai. The boy nodded at Brad. "All right," Brad stated. "Let us go find some food." He remembered a little cafe nearby where he had eaten earlier. The cuisine was good there. Brad wasn't sure what he had eaten, but it tasted good. He decided to take the children there. He stood up and offered his hands. They were shy at first, but gradually each child took a hand. They arrived to the restaurant in approximately 5 minutes. The woman running the business didn't appear pleased to see the kids at first, but Brad gave her some of his money and directed them to a table in the back. The children appeared confused by the menu. Brad thought they couldn't read, so he approached the owner and asked her to choose something suitable for the children. She laughed and went away. Soon she returned with a beer for Brad and what appeared to be Pepsi for the children. Probably not authentic Coke, but close. The kids seemed to appreciate it. By the 3rd round, the woman had brought out a plate of fried rice and meat sticks for everyone. Brad didn't know whether it was a monkey or a dog. Both ate here. Cat and snake were also frequent, although Brad had no idea. Nonetheless, the youngsters were pleased with the pork sticks. He assumed the fried rice would be too spicy, but they dug in without hesitation. The small girl spoke away in Thai during their supper. He did not understand what she was saying, but she was laughing, and laughing was much better than sobbing. So he laughed too. She was funny, so laughing was easy. The boy didn't say much, only a few words here and there. He looked to be more into his food. Brad tried to find out where their parents were, even asking the person who ran the property for assistance, but received no response. The owner simply said to wait. Following their meal, the children would show him the way. So he waited. When the children were filled and unable to take another mouthful, he paid and took the leftover food with him, and there was plenty of it. This time, the children grabbed his hands. They brought him to something that resembled a church. It even had a cross up front. Finding a Christian church in Korea. Thailand was the last thing Brad expected. But why not? The Thai people were the friendliest and most open Brad had ever met. Except if you're a thief. They did not like thieves. Aside from that, you couldn't meet nicer people. The youngsters drew him inside. It was so black that he had to sit still for a while until his eyes adjusted. When he saw the youngsters, he followed them to a seat. The lad smiled as the girl hugged his leg. Then I walked up to a spot cordoned off by a rail from the front of the church. Brad wasn't very religious. His family wasn't either. They were somewhat of Catholic, but only did the fundamentals. He immediately recognized what the kids were doing at the rail. They prayed softly. Brad sat for a long time until an older man sat beside him. He donned a priestly collar. Brad stared at him with curiosity. The priest looked back, intrigued. Then Brad pointed at himself, then at the children. The priest whispered, "Do you watch kids?" "What? No, I do not think so. They took me here. What do they pray for?" The priest flashed a little smile. "They pray for Dad who has died. Dad died a year ago. Is it? Cancer? Yes, thank you. Cancer boy, girl. Pray for Dad every day. Soul. Do you get it every day?" The priest nodded. "Every day, regardless of what?" "Pray here. Wait for Mom. She works long hours, 12 to 14 hours every day. Kids are waiting here. Children believe in God." Priest smiled and shook his head. "Not precisely. Simply ask God to think of Dad." "Thank you," Brad replied to the priest. "I'll wait here with the kids for Mom." "Okay." Priest smiled, nodded, and then walked away. The children kept praying. Brad felt it odd. Kids this young are frequently unable to sit still. Nonetheless, they remained stationary. About 10 minutes after the priest left, the children stopped praying. They stood, smiled at Brad, and sat down next to him on the bench. The girl got into his lap and rested her head on his chest. The youngster hugged Brad's arm, rested his head on it, and fell fast asleep. Brad arched his brows, glancing at the girl. She grinned, hugged him, and placed her head back on his chest. She fell asleep fast, too. Brad sat there, surprised by what had happened. He didn't wear a watch and preferred his phone, which was currently beneath the sleeping female. He had no idea when or if Mom would arrive. She would, correct? Brad just knew one thing for certain. He needed to dispose of the alcohol he drank in the restaurant. Damn beer, you don't keep it. You only borrow it for a little to take his mind off things. He thought about these two children who came to this dim, tiny church every day to pray for their loved ones who had died. They were not of this faith, but they were here every day praying for their father. Who does this? Brad assumed their father must have been a wonderful person for the kids to adore him so much, even a year after his death. Who does this? He wrapped his left arm around the tiny child and lovingly squeezed. She made a small squeak and moved closer to him. Brad smiled. She reminded him of his own children who were her age. Then he felt sorry. His children. Did they miss him? Did they think of him? Probably not. They would probably not pray for him. No, they were probably out having pizza with Nathan, unless Nathan was busy with Vicky. Then Mark and Jennifer might put some pizza in the fridge for Nathan. Damn, Brad could not stop comparing himself to his loving father. This father had everything. His children still liked him a lot, enough to pray for him a year after his death. What did Brad have? Nothing. Everything he did. He worked hard for what he had. Everything he contributed of himself was a waste of his life, just a dream that became a nightmare, a dismal and empty nightmare. At some point, Brad fell asleep. He felt a small touch on his left shoulder while sleeping, and he grinned, thinking a tiny fairy had stopped by. Then another and a third, although this one felt a little heavier. And then what? Brad awoke. It was still dark outside, but he could see a young woman standing in front of him. And she was attractive. She glanced at him in an unusual way. Children? Me? She said. She spoke in a beautiful voice. Is this your name? He inquired, half drowsy and bewildered. She looked angry for a moment. Kids. Mine. Children are sorry. Are these your two children? Yes, my children. Brad attempted to smile. He needed to pee. It's fine, he said. They were pleasant company. I fell asleep. He pointed to the remaining food from the supper. We were hungry, so we ate some corn dishes. Are you hungry? Please have some. She appeared puzzled. Then a priest came over. They spoke in Thai, and she appeared less wary, just and perplexed. She looked at the food again. After much discussion, it was determined that Brad would transport the sleeping children to their house for the Mother Tam Thong, and she would accept the food. She trusted him despite the oddity of the situation. Perhaps she just needed assistance. Her apartment was a little sad mess, but calling it a mess was a compliment. The mom and her children slept on a neat pile of blankets on the floor. No pillows yet. Everything was clean. He was astonished. Are the children asleep? There are no night clothes to put them in. He inquired about using her toilet. He had to mime, which was uncomfortable. She did not mind showing him a small room in the back. There's no toilet, only a hole in the ground. She understood what he meant. Alone. He used the hole. He walked out and saw her eating cold food. She was eating quickly. This lady was as hungry as the children had been. She seemed to enjoy his company, so he stayed. He had nothing else to do, and she appeared lonely. She didn't speak English well, but he understood the gist of it. Brad understood roughly a fifth of what she said. That was sufficient. Her spouse, who had been working, became ill. The priest talked about it and then died. There was no money left after. She didn't have much education, so she could only get a job washing dishes at a small, dirty establishment. She disliked being there. The employer was unpleasant, but she had no choice. She needed the job for her children. Brad felt a strong connection with her. She wasn't simply attempting to make him feel sorry, she just stated it like it was. Brad appreciated that. He stayed awake with her until almost 1 a.m. Then she mentioned that she needed to sleep. She had work at 8 a.m. Brad thanked her for the conversation. She thanked him for the meal and for looking after her children. And he departed. Despite the darkness, he was able to find his rented house. The next day, he returned to the market and noticed the children admiring the food vendors. He laughed, joined them, and took them to the same restaurant. Then he went with them to the church, waited for Tan Thong, and prepared leftovers for her. This became their everyday routine. Find the children, feed them, and wait while they pray. Then feed Tam Thong food and converse until she falls asleep. In the second week, he discovered where she worked. He was angry since the place was so bad. He wasn't sure why, but he knew it was correct. By the fourth week, Brad had made up his mind. He wasn't even aware he was thinking about it. But he decided to stay in Kairat for a long time. He wanted to aid Tan Thong and her children, whom he had grown fond of. The house he was renting was cheap, including furniture, and cost just over $500 per month. It was large for Thai standards, with 3 bedrooms and a full bathroom with a tub and shower. There were mattresses and sheets. The room contained 2 tiny beds. It also featured a fenced garden with a small pool and plenty of room in front. The neighborhood was pleasant, making it a suitable spot for them to dwell. He only needed to persuade Tam Thong to abandon her job and work for him as a housekeeper while living with him. He expected it to be easy. It was not. Brad didn't think she took his offer the wrong way, believing he wanted her as a partner rather than a worker. When he originally asked her, she became very angry. She spoke quickly in Thai, very upset. So he enlisted the services of a priest. Brad showed him the house and requested him to speak with Tan Thong. The priest agreed, and they invited him, Tam Thong, and her children to Brad's for an early breakfast. Very early. It took Tam Thong 3 weeks to think Brad wasn't after something else. He only wanted aid. Plus, he needed someone to keep the place clean. Tam Thong was quite furious with her manager at the tiny restaurant where she worked. She agreed to Brad's offer. Brad let Tam Thong and the priest figure out how much she'd be paid and the regulations for her and the children living with him. She used to earn $1.84 every day at the restaurant. Brad offered her $10 per day to work for him, but she declined. That was too much money for housework. He wanted. So the priest and Tam Thong discussed it. They settled on $3 per day. In addition, Brad would buy clothes for the children and teach them English. The kids weren't going to school, so Brad hired a tutor. He also wanted Tam Thong to learn English. They deliberated for several days before reaching an agreement. Brad transported them into his home in only one trip. The kids adored it. Not just because of the large, lovely home. They really liked Brad and felt safe around him. Tam Thong was terrified at first, but after a few weeks, she realized Brad was fine. He never made her uncomfortable, and seeing her children laughing alongside him made her happy. Tam Thong shopped with Brad, occasionally tagging along. When she haggled at the market, he had just learned enough Thai to get by. Tam Thong could be a harsh bargainer. She was also an excellent cook. She'd scold Brad if he tried to assist clean up after meals. He was paying her for it. Her children would step in if she needed assistance. The children stopped attending their small church, but they continued to pray for their father at home by their beds. Tam Thong believed they should quit. They weren't Christians, but Brad said let them be. Tam Thong had a different perspective after learning about Brad's own loss. Her children's memories of their father helped Brad cope with his own losses. Dump Bert. Nathan raised his glass high and drank it quickly. That's the stuff. What is up, Nate? Dwayne remarked. Why dump Bert? The old man has been a big nuisance since I took Vicky to Aruba. He keeps hurling silly, harsh words at me. I've had enough of his bullshit. Is he still going on about that? Yep. It's not my fault that Vicky wants anything greater. If they're not that fantastic, husband was performing his job. Vicky wouldn't even look my way. Why should I be blamed for their bad marriage? Nathan drained his beer in one long sip, drawing the bartender's eye. Nathan gave his cup a small wave. The bartender filled it again with tap beer. Do you want another shot? Asked the bartender. Yeah, no huge discussions. 9 o'clock tomorrow. Fill up, guy. Will you be fine tomorrow? Just watching you drink makes me concerned about my liver. Dwayne shakes his head. This? It is nothing. Man, you should have seen me in Aruba. Vicky was terrified we'd get into trouble. We had a drink to settle down after all of this, just the beginning. Nathan shakes his head. Man, forget about the guy and his family. I'm going to have Vicky every which way this weekend. Bert's little girl will be all over the place. I'm willing to bet she won't show up for work on Monday because sitting is difficult for her. Dwayne chuckled. Okay, here's $20. She'll be there on Monday. Deal. Cash, Nate? Why? Why, Vicky? You have others, right? Why make Bert angry over her? She was the grand prize. Happy wife. The others are too easy. A grin and a nod. And they were all on me. There is no fun in that. But Vicky, she was the true test. And Guy, you have seen her. Makes the other gals look like nothing. I'm not sure I can ever get enough of her. Just thinking about her may not last until Saturday. I might need to see her tonight. You just think about what's down there, Nate. Nate, does everything seem fine for Maverick? This will come back to bite you, Pete. It's been quiet up until now. Made Nathan remember he was present. What does that mean? Some bad luck. Pete sighed. No luck. Know why bad guys are caught? There is always a danger. Take a chance in difficult circumstances and you will lose. So I'm a guy now. Nathan shot back? No, yes, hell, I don't know. Just no. If you did it to my child, I would be furious. You're not a bad person, but you're making people angry. I am the terrible one here. Pete turned to Nathan and stared him directly in the eye. To some, yes. It makes no difference if you believe your actions are appropriate. Those who have been injured by you are at the top of their bad list. He exhaled. Look, Nate, you are not a bad guy. We wouldn't hang if we assumed you were, but it's not just Dwayne and I. It's all the others who see you ruining marriages. Telling us who is to blame will not change the way they see things. They are not listening to your perspective. Pete, a little tipsy, gave his opinions before leaving. Keep an eye out. You can't play around indefinitely. It will catch up with you. He finished his drink and said goodbye. Soon after, Dwayne left, leaving Nathan to reflect over his last beer. He thought Dwayne was dumb. Dwayne's wife was probably cheating. Nathan knew since he'd been with her, but he stopped learning. She was too easygoing. He did not want an STD. However, Pete's suggestion reached him. Perhaps it was time to settle. However, do not marry. Nathan did not want that. Vicky was okay, and he was not prepared to let her go, but nothing serious. Dwayne and Pete were enjoyable to hang around with. Nathan was concerned after hearing what Vicky's child stated. Brad was after him. Vicky's husband was an insane man, and she was the best he had. Nonetheless, she was married to a lunatic. Nathan remembered a previous experience. Wendy Lawson was entertaining. They did not take her husband seriously, but when he realized he'd punched Nathan so hard, it ached to chew. Wendy dragged her husband away before things worsened. That hurt a lot. Nathan became increasingly cautious. He started by checking the husbands. Brad seemed easygoing. Vicky had him under control. He was always silent and did not seem to pose a threat to Nathan. Nathan was constantly looking about, scanning for dark spots, wondering whether the next guy to come in was going to fight him. He took his final shot, hoping it would help him relax until he got home. The more he thought about it, the more he preferred the notion of leaving. Dwayne and Pete may not have been harsh, but they were alone. Nathan felt too out in the open. He finished his beer quickly, left some money for the tip, and went home. "Mark, could you get that?" Vicky yelled in the kitchen. "I get it." Mark yelled back and opened the door. "Hello, man, you look terrific." Nathan remarked this while shaking Mark's hand. "Nathan, we didn't expect you to be here so soon. Come in." Mark welcomed Nathan inside. "What is it that you have?" "This. Just barbecue sauce and chips. I was unsure what to pack." "Cool. I'll just put it in the kitchen." Mark took the bag into the kitchen. "BBQ sauce. Didn't he remember? We apply a special rub and Dad's secret sauce." Then it struck Mark. It was Dad's sauce. Who will make it now? Did his mother know how? Perhaps they'll need Nathan's sauce after all. Jen yelled and held Nathan firmly. "Jen, how is school going?" Jen became quiet. "We're working things out. What's there to work out? You choose your classes, show up, and do your assignment. That is it. Has it gotten harder since I left?" Jen smiled. "No, not that school is fine, but Dad has ceased sending money. Mark and I are attempting to figure out how to pay for the following term." Nathan responded, "Well, something will turn up," without thinking about it. Then it struck him. What if? The Duncans believed he was in it for the long run. Vicky was entertaining, and he would keep her around longer than the others. But Nathan didn't want to be tied down. He secretly hoped that God would listen to someone like him. "Let's just keep this fun. I am confident we will find a way. Mom believes Grandma could help, but let's talk about you." How is it going? Good. Aruba was a fantastic place. I believe your mother also returned happy. Nathan teased Jan and she laughed. Yes, she does appear cheerful. It's a shame you didn't join more. Yep, it's a bummer about the plans for this weekend. I was thinking about hanging out with Vicky, you and your brother. That sounds cool. Nathan hoped that they would be occupied. He wanted Vicky all to himself for hours of enjoyment. Nathan thought, so it looks like it's just you and Mom. Mark and I are back in school. That is a shame. We'll meet up another time. Inside, Nathan felt fortunate. He wondered, perhaps some kind of high power is causing this. Nathan smiled at his own thought. Perhaps being top dog entails winning over someone. Amazing. Vicky was almost there in Nathan's eyes, and he enjoyed thinking of her that way. Nathan and Jen entered the kitchen where Mark was helping Vicky with the food. Nathan held Vicky tightly, kissed her, then kissed her neck. Stop, Nathan. You know I'm holding a knife, right? Vicky laughed. She tried to push him away while chopping a bell pepper. She ended up pushing him closer instead. When his hands began to wander, she had to exert significant pressure. Nathan, my children are here. Jen was laughing. We can go, Mom. No, stay. Dinner. Be ready. Stop, Nathan. You won't be able to finish dinner. Nathan. Vicky was now annoyed, and Nathan realized why he needed to stand back. But he stole one last kiss and made me laugh again. Enough. Sit down. Let me finish. Jen, offer our guest a beer. Vicky grinned at Nathan for getting that beer specifically for him because it was his favorite from Aruba. Wow. Really? Nathan was astonished when Jen handed him the beer. Where did you go? I placed the order. Nice choice. Vicky jumped in. You've got it. Thank you, Mark. Try one. Okay. Mark spoke softly, looking at Vicky. She gave a thumbs up. Yeah, okay. He cheered up. Mark ordered a drink and tried to enjoy his first taste. He was young and didn't really understand alcohol, so Nathan laughed when Mark made a face. You will receive it. College costs how much? Not the flavor. You'll grow to enjoy it when you're not flipping cups for fun. He should not be flipping cups. Vicky gazed at Mark sharp. I am not. I promise, Mark said to Vicky, giving Nathan a covert grin that Vicky missed as she returned to cooking dinner. Mark and Nathan shared a knowing gaze. Everything was fine, and dinner was wonderful. But Mark and Jen did not try Brad's sauce. It made the dinner. Vicky attempted to duplicate it, but it was not the same without it. Everything tasted off. Mark and Jen headed for the sauce. Nathan brought Jen. I felt a tear fall out. She was scared she'd never taste Dad's sauce again. Mark and Jen left after cleaning up. As soon as the door closed, Nathan and Vicky were all over each other. If Nathan had his way, Dwayne would have lost the bet. Vicky enjoyed her coffee the next morning. Last weekend with Nathan was fantastic. She wanted to see Brad again. Nathan stepped in to fill the void after he left. He forgot about his fears from Aruba and made up for lost time in the previous months. Vicky liked Nathan, and she needed him. Mark and Jen were visiting again this weekend. Vicky needed her children. Her parents barely spoke to her. No help. They're not coming home to anyone. Every day was depressing and difficult. Vicky was going to order more coffee when her phone rang. She picked up without checking at the caller ID. Hello? She asked. Mom, are you okay? Jen sounded worried. Yes, sweetheart, Vicky replied, pouring cream and sugar to her coffee. Just making coffee. What up? Are you already planning to leave? About that, Mom, I can't make it this weekend. That is all right. Vicky attempted to sound normal. She will miss Jen, but she understood her daughter had her own life. Summer break is approaching. We'll be hanging out a lot then. Mom, I might not be home much. Why? Vicky was shocked. I'm Nathan, Mom. I can't be around him. You two were fine last weekend. You've even hugged him. I understand. And I felt terrible all week. I kept thinking about what Nathan means to us. What do you mean? Nathan has not been a problem. Do not lie. Everything has a price. School, children, marriage, the cost of your affair. Was our father supporting you? Cost Mark and me our father. Wow, that is a bit much, Vicky replied, not taking her daughter seriously. Stop it, Mom. At the cookout, I kept wondering, where is Dad? He used to create the ribs. He listened to both Mark and me, helped us, made us laugh, and Nathan does not. That is not true. You enjoyed being with him, Mom. This is not about Nathan. Yes, I enjoy Nathan, but it is not the same. He's a good person, but not Dad. If I had to pick someone, it would be Dad every time. That's the thing. If Nathan is here, Dad will not return. Wow, so much is going on, so you aren't coming back? Jen let out a large sigh. No, Mom, I'll be back. Simply not much. I need to obtain a job for my automobile at school. I'll stay away from Nathan and try to find Dad. Jennifer, dear, that is okay. But could you wait a little bit? It's so quiet here, and I'd love to invite you and Mark over. I will not invite Nathan for a time. How is that? Jen did not enjoy this. She cared for her mother and understood how miserable she was alone. Okay, Mom, I will come over next weekend. I'm busy this weekend, but I should be available afterward. Vicky and Jen chatted some more. Jen was successful in finding some entry-level positions. One even assisted with school expenses. Jen would have to move schools and redo some classes, but it looked like a nice offer. Nathan moved away from Vicky. They were both sweating and gathering their breath. Vicky had a big foolish grin. Nathan felt he had done well. This time, Vicky, if she had a cigarette, would appear like she was in an old movie after lovemaking. Wow, Vicky said, glancing up. She had stayed away from Nathan for over a week. Vicky reconsidered her need for Nathan after hearing Jen's discussion of choices. But tonight I feel alone. Her resolve to remain away crumbled. They ended up in bed. Wow. Nathan raised his eyebrow. You're correct. That was great. Isn't it better than having a bad husband? Nathan grinned. What? Vicky snapped. She turned aside, apparently angry. Nathan was puzzled and stared at her. What have I said? Hey, that scumbag abandoned you because he realized he couldn't do that to you. Leave. Leave now. What? Leave now. Vicky shoved Nathan, attempting to get him out of the bed. What's up with you? You're not quite as good in bed as Brad. You aren't even half the man he is. Take your belongings and go. Nathan got up and began putting on his clothing. Are you for real? He dumped you, does not even try to keep you, and you are kicking out. Forget it. You are not worth it. Nathan had pants on. He grabbed the rest of his clothes and departed. The slam of the bedroom door. It felt like the end of Vicky's world. Nathan, how could you say that about Brad? Nathan was a supporting character, not Brad. Brad was everything she wanted. Vicky felt less angry now. Brad, it was all she wanted. She glanced around the empty room. There was little of Brad left anymore. She carried images of Brad with her. It felt horrible having them around Nathan, both as a slap at Brad and their marriage, and for Nathan. But the space suddenly felt more like a hotel than the home she had shared with Brad for years. This could be anyone's room. Vicky heard the front door bang and knew Nathan had left. Then she felt very alone. Her own mother and father were far away. They didn't call her often. She learned about her father via Nathan, more than from her mother. Jen didn't come by that often either. Her job took up all of her time. Even when she finally arrived, she was different. Vicky's daughter, who had been there for her during her time with Nathan, had left. She was pleasant, but she wasn't very interested in Vicky and Nathan's relationship. Jen abandoned up hope for Vicky and Brad. This resulted in arguments between Vicky and Jen. They had disputes, silent and angry moments. Jen was close to tears and blamed Vicky for it. Vicky was upset with Jen, and they were growing apart. Vicky did not desire this gap, but Jen was set in her ways. Mark was still present now and then. Vicky was someone he deeply cared for. Her last surviving family member was gone. However, Mark frequently placed himself first. Vicky understood Mark was here for himself rather than for her. If Brad was still taking care of things, Mark would spend more time with his friends. Jen, on the other hand, always prioritizes family. Nathan here. Mr. Schaffer wants to see you. Nathan overheard Maureen remark, Okay, I'll be right there. Nathan put his files away, dusted his desk, and looked to see if anything else was preventing him from meeting with Bert again. Nathan believed it would be more of the same with Bert, implying Nathan was having problems with his workstation. Neat. Nathan inhaled deeply, prepared for what came next. As Nathan proceeded to the lifts, he noticed Dwayne looking angry. Bad day. Was Bert mad too? What's up, you goddamn jackass? Dwayne was fuming. Dwayne, what is the matter? What is the matter? You were with her. You were with Nancy. Nathan observed Dwayne's fists tighten, preventing him from striking Nathan. No, he did not know. Hold on, Dwayne. Down. Do not calm down. Me, you traitor. Dwayne was directly in Nathan's face. "Fortunately, we're at work. Stay away from me." Dwayne's cheeks flamed. Nathan thought, what a nightmare of a week. How did Dwayne find out? Should I inquire what else may go wrong? Nathan had not noticed. He was shaking and sweating. He had assumed Dwayne was a pushover. Now. Nathan was not so sure. Dwayne might prove to be tougher than Brad. At least Brad had left. Nathan needed to deal with Dwayne. Many people at work liked him. This is horrible. He pondered again. The lift was on the first floor, allowing Nathan some time. Dwayne had scared him a lot. However, time was still too short. He had a thought. Nathan would be out of money if Bert hadn't given him the cash. That's not entirely true. He had several ladies he hadn't gotten close to. Following that, he would leave. Avoiding Dwayne appeared doable. Will any of Dwayne's friends stand up? They might put on a show but do nothing meaningful. Nathan was certain of it. The lift rang and reached Bert's floor. I was brought back into the present moment. Nathan approached Bert's front desk lady. Maureen joked about being lost as Nathan arrived. Nathan tried to think of a clever, flirtatious response, but Maureen never gave him any hints. She looked like she was in her late 20s, with snow-white dark hair, beautiful pale complexion, and brilliant red lips. Always, if not for her chatty demeanor with Bert. Nathan Woodpecker is cold. She had genuine grins and laughs for Bert. Nathan perceived her as emotionless. He now noticed she was wearing a wedding band next to her engagement ring. Nathan suddenly desired her more than she was simply lovely with that ring. She was on his list. The thought of her letting down her guard for him took all of his worries away. "Vicky, we have a new target." Nathan was still bewildered by what happened that night. She had thrown him out. That was new. And why not her husband? Vicky had chosen Nathan over him and then flipped. Fine. Let her come back. Wanting the sea to be large and full with fish. Yeah. How about you guide me next time so I don't make the same mistakes? Maureen simply shook her head without even a smile. Tough. Nathan had hoped for a small smile. Maureen grabbed her phone. "Mr. Schaefer? Yes, he is here. Send him up. I get it." Maureen hung up. "This route, just behind you," Nathan whispered. Getting the volume correct was a soft skill, and you appeared flirtatious and very loud. And it was really disrespectful. But Maureen did not react. She walked, and Nathan watched her every step. "Need anything more, Mr. Schaefer?" Maureen inquired of Bert. "No, it's all good. Thank you, Maureen." She smiled and closed the door behind her. "Nathan, have a seat." Bert motioned toward a couch. Bert's workplace arrangement was a giveaway to couches suited for personal conversations or smoothing things over the chairs near his desk. Straightforward commercial talks. Nathan knew sitting on the couch indicated he was in for a difficult conversation. "Nathan, I'm glad you could make it." "It's not like I had a choice," Nathan responded. "Drink?" "Sure." Bert poured both. A nice image of Glenlivet. Nathan was relieved. At the very least, Bert wasn't cheap with his liquor. He took the glass. "Thank you, Nathan. I'd hate to see you depart. You are a big deal here. I got it." "I'm the moneymaker," Nathan half joked. "Right, have you considered leaving?" Perhaps they looked around. Why should I? Nathan, deep down, felt tired. The issue with Vicky being kicked out of his apartment. Why did mess land on him? It was Vicky's drama. "Well, Nathan, things are about to get much tougher here. Bert, be straightforward, no hard sentiments." Bert said, "Think about it. Men dislike it when others sleep with their spouses. It appears you've done this a lot here, not just with my child. I've heard one guy knows. Others will eventually follow suit. So if their wife cheats, it's on them," Nathan explained, "but it's not only them." Bert leaned in, hands together. "You were there too. These women. We'll discuss how you persuaded them to cheat. Their husbands will not like you much then. You made it happen. They will not think you are good. Got it?" Nathan gave a half nod. He considered a few husbands at work that could cause trouble for him. Not face-to-face, but playing with his money or computer. But will they really? They couldn't keep their spouses satisfied. That is why they came to him. Should he be afraid of these guys? Bert's voice summoned him back. "I called several places. They're waiting for your call whether you wish to proceed. Are you kicking me out, Bert?" Nathan became enraged at seeing the paper slide his way. No way. He would not be pushed out. He was the person here. If Bert wanted him gone, Nathan would leave on his terms, not shoved out like this. No way. I am not firing you, just giving you options, because you cannot fire me. Bert let out a large sigh. Nathan, I'm making things easy for you. Just go. These occupations are good, Bert stated, but he knew it wasn't entirely true. They'd be a step down, and Nathan's safety would be closely monitored. But Nathan was tenacious and hard to kill. Bert disliked him completely. He wished. Nathan tried something with Irene. She would have ripped him apart and thrown his remains into the Glenlivet, and Bert would not have cared if the scotch went to waste. You move on, start over, and all of the problems go away. Trouble? What? Bert, are you in trouble? Dwayne has no guts. He can stuff it, so can the rest. I'll be out when I say I'm out. Got. Nathan stood up. Thank you for the drink. The door slammed shut behind Nathan. Bert sighed. He had given Nathan several chances. This was the final straw, and he owed Irene again. Bert picked up the phone. Irene. Hello, love. Did you talk to him? Bert sighed. Yeah, Irene laughed. I win again. Damn that. Yes, you win. The fool would not listen. I even called around for him. You accomplished even more. He still said no. Bert, that's not fair. I'm going to go broke with these bets. Perhaps dinner is the equivalent of paying up. Bert, I'd love that. Bert heard Irene take a breath. Bert, the bets don't matter. I wish you were correct. However, we no longer have control over the situation. You have already. I figured we'd wait till the meeting. We're just claiming it was his final shot. Bert, are we doing well? Indeed we are, no second thoughts. He picked this. The car suggested trouble, and Nathan noticed it was overheating. Great, he was in an area of town where you did not stop, not in an $80,000 vehicle. It would be stripped in minutes if a parking lot was lit. Nathan pulled in. If he did not stop, his car's engine would undoubtedly fail. Fortunately, a stolen car had insurance. Nathan discovered the roadside assistance number and contacted it. A polite lady said a tow truck would arrive in an hour. Nathan waited for 20 minutes, watching individuals he disliked stroll by. Then he saw that the tavern across the street looked safer. His car appeared to be extremely visible. Hello, pal, got a match? Nathan simply slammed his car door and turned. A large man was quickly approaching him. No, I don't have a damn. Nathan was cut off. The large guy's fist struck his belly. It knocked the wind out of him. He wanted to shout for aid but was unable to breathe. You have been asking for this. Another strike caused Nathan's side to ache. His knees buckled, but he did not fall. The man was holding him and dragging him away from the automobile. Why? Nathan eventually got out, but asking that rather than shouting for help was foolish. He knew when the man smacked him again, causing him to lose all oxygen. Nathan discovered they were in an alleyway. No. Was his final thinking before agony struck and a powerful kick fell on him. He now knew exactly how a steel-toed boot felt. No, the man said. I can't pass out yet. Nathan tried to breathe. The kick had caused significant inside pain. He scarcely felt the slap on his cheek. Hi, are you still with me? Nathan tried. He actually did. But agony reduced his cry to a quiet noise. Fine. Bad guys like you do not get off easy. Nathan felt his teeth break as a fist landed in his mouth. With his next breath, he spewed forth blood and tooth fragments. Nathan felt himself fading away and was almost relieved. But before he sank into unconsciousness, he received a low kick and a blow to the ear. That knocked him down. Then everything went dark. Beep, beep. Nathan awoke a dimly lit room. His eyes are partially open. He noticed a beeping contraption at his side. The beep seemed weird. The machine was located on his left. Why did it appear to originate from the right? He looked right. He suspected that another machine was also beeping, but there was nothing. Turning back, a bandage rubbed on his ear, causing severe discomfort. Nathan yelled, prompting a nurse to run over. She mumbled something, added something to Nathan's IV, and he dozed off again. Nathan. A gentle woman's voice reached him. Nathan didn't recognize her. He's waking up, doctor. Just a little more time. Nathan's eyes opened slowly. The pain was lessened. He felt fine, more or less. He remained still. He did not want to feel that pain again. He focused on the woman who was most certainly a nurse and the man standing next her. Must be the doctor, he guessed. Nathan. I am Dr. Wells. Can you hear me? Nathan nodded. Good. Now follow my pen. Nathan followed his instructions as the doctor performed various tests on him. Very good, Nathan. We now need to talk. Do you remember how you arrived here? Nathan shakes his head. Perhaps it was difficult to discern whether it actually moved. The cops are here. They need to know what occurred. Do you recall anything? Nathan attempted to recall stopping his car. He knew he had gotten out. But then what? He shook his head again. Right. His head did move somewhat. Okay, I will tell them. But they might come in to speak with you soon. So we had a discussion about a few important issues. First and foremost, you were in really bad shape, like very near to death. Not only once, twice. When you were undergoing surgery, you had a lot of bleeding inside, and to be honest, things were worse than we expected when you initially arrived. But we made it through all the chopping and repairing, and now you should start to improve. Okay, now, as things stand, you've taken a fairly serious whack to the head. We'll keep an eye on you, but please let us know if you begin to feel confused or sick to your stomach. The doctor paused for a second and cleared his throat. Also, we had to remove one of your kidneys. This won't stop you from living your life. You can get by just well with one, but we'll offer you some information to read so you can take care of the kidney you have left. And there is no easy way to express this. You lost both testicles, and your penis is severely damaged. It's possible that you're no longer capable of getting hard. That's the hardest aspect about your penis. There is a surgery. If you're interested in learning more about this, we might try to obtain some use back. I'll have a specialist look at it, but don't expect too much based on what I've seen thus far. You want me to gather more information? What? Nathan could not believe he had lost his testicles and penis. He hadn't sobbed in forever. I didn't think he had any cause to, but now he felt a tear trickle down his cheek. Yes, all right, I'll call, and the doctor will see you in a few days. The sooner we complete the surgery, the better. Now, what about your testicles? We can't make them operate again, but we can install false ones. It may make things feel and appear more normal. If you're interested, there's a relatively simple solution. Nathan merely nodded. Nurse, get Dr. Swanson here in 3 days. That will give us time following the initial procedure. Okay. Nathan, your face is still rather puffy, and you have a lot of cuts that will scar badly. Dr. Swanson stated that he could help. Could you help me with this? Nathan inquired softly. Sure. We might need to talk again later. For now, we'll keep an eye on you. If you are harmed or need anything, press the call button. The doctor said this before leaving. He paused. Would you like us to call someone for you? No, there is no one, Nathan whispered. Brad was out on his back. It was an extremely hot day. He watched Tam Thong in the small pool beneath the miniature waterfall he created. Tam Thong was facing away, enjoying the cool water and wringing her long hair. She did not wear a top in Thailand. That was normal near the water. Her skin was a rich, gorgeous brown from the sun. Even after having 2 children, she looked stunning. Today was Brad's day to fix things. After considering it since their family trip to Fiji, he decided to make a video call on his own terms to keep it brief. Brad appeared ill, his tone frigid as he began the conversation. My lawyer advised me to do this video call. I really don't want to talk to you, Vicky. Seeing or hearing you makes me feel ill. I do not want to talk to you either. Jen's face turned white and tears started to fall. Mark also appeared to be sad. Vicky didn't show any emotion, although it appeared that she was shivering. His wife and children appeared slimmer than he remembered. Brad studied their expressions before making one of his own. So Brad moved on. Okay, forget it. We're talking now. This may teach you something. Do you see the 3 persons I'm with? The lady and 2 children? They are a family. She is in her late 20s. The boy is 12 and the girl is 10. Her husband died 3 years ago. He was unwell and had no money. Help. They had saved a little money. However, paying for the illness and funeral depleted the funds. The lady worked at a small, dingy restaurant. Let us call it a diner. Believe me, you would not want to eat anything from there. She worked long hours cleaning dishes for very little money after paying for their home. There was little money left. She occasionally brought home food that wasn't sold at the establishment. Are you listening? Vicky sighed. She had no idea why Brad was telling them this, but she didn't stop him. He eventually spoke to them. Mark and Jen glanced at the wife and children while their father informed them about their difficult lives. She could not bring food home every day. She mostly couldn't because the boss insisted on her paying for the food, but not with money. Get it. The lady who ran that shithole urged her to do awful things in order to feed her children crumbs that rats wouldn't touch. More often than not, she returned empty-handed. Only got something when the boss was away. Think about it. She needed food, but she wasn't going to do anything wrong to get it. Not like you, Vicky. I don't care at all. She values respect, self-worth, and honor. She would rather starve than have her children think negatively of her. All for barely edible crumbs. You see, the children took matters into their own hands. They tried to get food in the only method they could think of: stealing. But let's get real. They were not very good at it. The boy was apprehended and was facing genuine jail time. Not the sort for children, as such does not exist here. So I ran into them around a year and a half ago. I was present when the boy attempted to take a slice of fruit. His sister refused to leave him, so she was apprehended too. Just so you know, this is a real lesson on working together. The cops were ready to seize them, but I intervened. I paid the shopkeeper 3 times the value of the fruit and gave the cops 20 times the same amount to forget about it. Add it up. It cost me $18.13 US to clear it up. Then I got them a proper supper. Not sure whether they've ever had one before. You know, thereafter. They would not show me where they resided, but they did something unusual. They led me to a rundown church to pray. Strange, right? Brad gazed at his ex-family's faces as he delivered the story. I spotted them and assumed they'd gone away, but they held my hands to the church. Inside, they both bowed to pray. I couldn't tell because I didn't know their vocabulary at the time. They prayed for something, but the priest spoke well, English. He stated that despite not following his faith, those 2 children came to his church every day to pray for their father, who had died. They learned about God and hope from the priest, with the hope that it would assist their father. Those children hoped to God that if they did not follow, they would remember that their father had not been abandoned. Every day after their mother left for work, they went to church and prayed for their father's soul. Every day, a 10-year-old boy and his 8-year-old sister did it all by themselves. Who does this? I will inform you. Someone who loves and respects their parents, even at death. I stayed with the kids in church until their mom arrived late to pick them up. That's where she found them every night, sitting in that church with those children. I thought of my own father's story. I thought I had left all of my hurt and anger behind with your lies when I left the United States. But maybe not that, Father. The kid's father had nothing when he was alive, and here were his children. A year after his death, I was praying for him mere feet away. Me? I was wealthy several times over. I'd been a faithful husband and father. I adored my family more than anything. My family has never needed anything in their lives. Not money, my time, love, and dedication. Nothing was ever hidden from you 3, if I could help it. Despite this, I have nothing to show for the 20 years I gave of my life. I have a wife who just cares about herself and 2 children that ignore me unless they really have to. So here's the deal. I took the mother from a poor job and allowed them all to move in with me, not for any wrong purpose. That is your style, Vicky, not mine. The lady works with me and looks after her children in a safe, loving environment. I did it to improve their lives because I could, and they really needed the assistance. Initially, I had no intention of staying. I was just walking around, trying to get away from the shambles my life had become. This was just another stop, a place to find some tranquility or try something new to give my life meaning again. Then I met those youngsters and discovered what I had been looking for, a cause to be. I'm not sure where I went wrong previously, but this time I'm getting it properly. I have decided to stay. Things are simpler here. It hurts less. I can laugh and smile again. This means more than you can think after losing it to those you trusted the most. That's all I have to say. Maybe it gets you thinking. Perhaps not. I bet not. But I am pleased now, and that's how it will remain. You all requested this call, so say what you have to say and let's wrap it up. Jen is crying, and Vicky is also in tears. Dad, stop. Mark, don't call me that. I am not your father anymore because it is what you chose. You lost all of your rights to me the instant you turned your back on me. Mark slumped into his chair. Brad. Vicky, get it out there. Let's stop this conversation, Brad. Hear me out. Stop this. It's entirely my fault. All of it. I apologize for hurting you and how I did it. Please, let's stop this and return. I don't want to part up. I cannot. I can't bear being separated from you any longer. Please. Let us try to remedy my mess. If you're angry, be angry with me. Just me. I was the one who caused this. But I am begging you, give us another shot. If not for me, then for your children. Thank you, Brad. I implore you to give your children and me. If you can return home. Brad's expression revealed that he was angry, which was frightening. Are you still with the person you left for Aruba with? Did he shoot back? No, that was a big mistake, Brad. I botched up so badly, Brad. I love you more than you could ever know. I will always adore you more than words can express. Please forgive us. Brad gazed at his wife with rage in his eyes, but he didn't get to say anything. The little girl abandoned her sibling and mother to go to him, leaping onto his lap. She hugged him quickly and then noticed the folks on the computer screen. Her eyes grew huge. She also smiled. Several teeth were gone. Maybe because she is young. She waved at the three while peering at the laptop and laughing. Jen also laughed, but it sounded fake. She stretched out and touched the screen. Mark just sat there in shock. Vicky covered her mouth. Brad's expression softened when the small girl climbed into his lap. Now he was smiling. Brad turned back to see his former family. I'm not going to say their names or her names. You do not get to know. You simply need to know. They are good people, that's all. Then Brad's new family joined him. They communicated in a language Brad's first family could not understand. The lady placed her hand on Brad, making Vicky blush with envy. The young youngster tried his best in English, stating, "We're happy. Thanks. Thanks to Brad. I love him. Lots. So happy. Good day, guy. Good day, guy." Vicky, Mark, and Jen were initially lost, but it quickly struck them. Brad had discovered his new kin. The woman had been observing Brad's first family. Her stare was keen. She mumbled something to her children, who dashed off. She whispered something to Brad, and he just... Turning to Vicky, Mark, and Jen. She did her best. English. I'm a tan-thong pre-cert. My English isn't there yet. He is pushing me to learn. Tough but blessed. He is in my life. He saved me and my children twice. He received us with such kindness and affection. We're lucky. I understand what you did to him. Shame on you. Lies and cheating. He doesn't need it. Shame on you. He's been upset and hurt because of you. It hurts me to see it. I simply want his agony to end so he can be joyful. Always. I told him I would be his girlfriend, for real, in life. I love him, and my children are willing to offer him everything. Even stated that I would have his children. He said no. He is married. He isn't the type to lie or cheat. She spoke in simple words but with a strong feeling, telling the story of finding love and kindness, a fresh start away from grief and treachery, long ago. He tells me this. It's been almost a year now. Soon, too. Can't wait any longer. You say farewell. She looks at Vicky. He's mine now. I love him. Lots. I also have 2 children that adore him. They are his now. My feelings for him are quite strong, always loyal to him. He is the best dude. You are not loyal to him, not true for the kids. I am taking him. He is the love of my life. I will always love him, never cheat or behave badly. That is all I am saying. Brad shakes his head as Tamthong walks away. Jennifer is crying, Dad. What did I say to Jennifer? I adore you, Dad. Jennifer, that is not enough. It's not enough to fight for me, not even thinking about it. But Jen continues on. That's not correct, Dad. Do you not love us? Even a bit. Brad frowns. Love is strange, Jennifer. Real love. You can't just turn it off, but it can modify its appearance. Smell, meaning? If your mother has not already told you about meaning, she should. She redefines love to reflect how she feels. Vicky is surprised by the nasty statements. Brad, stop, Vicky. Your love for me has long since lost its meaning. It changed for months before you told me I wasn't important. It meant nothing. The last day we spent together. When you did not say you loved me. It meant nothing if you kept seeing him after Aruba. You assumed I wouldn't know. It changed for you, too, when you decided to support your mother. That informed me I meant nothing to you. It altered everything for me when you chose her lover over me. There's no use in talking anymore. I wasn't what you all desired. I was not enough for any of you. My 20 years of love meant nothing. Great. I have moved on. Let's stop there. But that isn't right, Dad, Mark protested, his voice raised. I will not discuss this, Mark. Not with you, Vicky, or Jennifer. Sometimes you only have one chance to accomplish it. You all had your chance and blew it. Live with it. I can live with my decision, Brad. I never said you weren't important. Never. Yes, you did, Vicky. You see, you all have a major problem. You hear things whatever you want. You didn't care how I took it. What I think is all that counts to me, not what others think. What you thought was erroneous from the beginning. And Mark said your mother's mistake was no big thing. Do you still think Mark shook his head and looked down? No, that was ridiculous. This is the dumbest thing I've ever said. And I've said a lot of dumb things, Dad. Brad did not respond when Mark used his father again. Guess Camelot was your dumbest idea, but who cares? Dad, you are as stupid as they come. We made a tremendous mistake. I can't express enough regret for what we did or how horrible I feel. We really harmed you. You did not deserve any of it. Can't you forgive our silly mistakes? Give us an opportunity to make things right. Please, Dad, give us a chance. Jennifer joined in. We adore you, Dad. Always have. We still do. And nothing you say will alter that. We made a huge mistake, as Mom and Mark pointed out. We damaged you in ways I can't even express. I will not dispute my involvement in it, but I'm so sorry. I couldn't say no when Mom recommended it. I knew it wasn't right, but I did it anyway. I simply want to be your kid again. That is it. There's nothing more. Just allow us to be a family again. What we did was wrong. Yes, but was it horrible forever? Can't you forgive us even a little? No, Jennifer, it won't happen. Did someone tell Nathan to leave my house? No, you did not. You liked him there. You made him happy there. You had a good time while he was in my bed with my wife. So, no. Brad, Vicky, please stop lying. I heard you and your friend were parting ways. What? How did you do that to him? Brad's laughter was mean. I heard Nathan Trumbull was taken care of. I heard he was close to death on the operating table. Many people experience this twice. Your family? My family, Sarah. Nobody seemed sad for him. Brad was a good guy. He was never a kind guy, Vicky. Good. Guys don't ruin families. Do you think I didn't know about your secret friend? I knew way before you went with him. Did you know you were not his only one? You probably felt you were special to him. Am I correct? Anyway, Nathan's antics apparently irritated some irate husband. It was unsurprising that he was severely injured. I believe Nathan now has to live with those scars and can no longer be proud of his man parts. Brad, do you think there's some truth behind that? How are you, Dad? You did that to him. Mark was shocked. Brad looked at Mark before speaking. Why are you upset? Scared of a spouse getting back at a man who shattered his life? Dad, I don't think what Mom did was proper. But Nathan, I've met him. He's kind. Brad laughed and then remarked to you, think the same since he is kind, Dad, right? You two are losers. Don't call me Dad anymore. I'm not your dad. If you're okay, that guy in our house is glad to be around you. Just leave me alone. Go to Nathan. Have a big hug or something. Brad. Vicky jumped in. Nathan might get you locked up for what you did first. Vicky, do you believe I did anything? I never stated I did. Nathan, sure. It was me. He sent the cops after me. Has he told you? Did you stand up for me? Any of you know? Thought so. Some U.S. Marshals found me last week. They were far from home, but they left. Nothing happened. They even got intoxicated on the native beer. Here, it's strong. I wasn't even in the United States when Nathan was hurt, so I am clear. But hearing Nathan say he can't prove it was me must sting. Heard that the doctors put in phony pieces for him, similar to the ones kids find at Easter. True. Perhaps so, but Nathan's pointing at me made him look bad to the feds. Right. Someone must have spent a lot of money to discover me out here. It appears that Uncle Sam will need to request additional taxes in order to recover the funds. Anyway, forget about that awful piece of work. He got what he deserved regardless of who did it. And who knows? Perhaps more awful things await him. You can't be too sure right now. For the final time, let's wrap up this stupid conversation quickly. I know you three have been on a tight budget. When I stopped helping out, Mark and Jennifer had to drop out of school. And you, Vicky, have not paid their school since they missed a term while waiting for school loans. Too awful for them. And shame on you, Vicky. You may buy a luxury automobile for your lover, but not aid your own children's school, which earns more than $300,000 each year. And you do it. Vicky, that's just sad. You are not doing a good job as a mother by being so selfish. How about that car you got for what's his face? I've heard it's a wreck now. Bet the money on that car could have paid for a few classes for your children. What a letdown, Vicky. What a greedy guy you've become. Also, I know you three are chasing the money I left with. And you've been attempting to sue Mom and Dad for the proceeds from the sale of the business. That is why I wanted to talk to you. Ha! He's tired of being bothered by your lawyers. Brad laughed, but this time it seemed lighter. You have to giggle at how crazy things are in court these days. Lawyers are complaining about other lawyers disturbing them. What a mess the United States has gotten into. Okay, this is it, plain and simple. Listen, so you'll never get your hands on the money I took. Even if I died right now, you would not see a penny of it. It will just disappear. Gone forever. Think about this. When I die, every bank account in the globe receives a 2-cent deposit, both personal and business. Can anyone perform that math? My parents' proceeds from the sale of their firm have also disappeared. That transaction took place in a country that does not communicate with the United States, so the money is far away. Besides, that was their company's money, not mine. You are unable to touch it. Jeez, talk about grabbing money. Vicky, I know you tried to get Bert and Irene to aid you with funds. They said no. How do I know about that trip? They and Sarah flew to Fiji 2 months ago. We met them there. Tam, Thong, and I are with the kids. We had a great time. It was nice to watch your family get along with Tam, Thong, and the kids, so... Okay, Vicky, I don't mind if Bert or Irene give you money, but they are still quite furious with you three. Vicky, you should not have let Nathan move into my house. That was extremely dumb. Mark, too, should have been more reserved about his feelings for Nathan. You all acted like Nathan was a member of the family. He was not, is not, and never will be. If I had Irene and Bert, your family hoped I would return. I forgive you three. Sorry. Fools. Vicky, Bert, Irene, and Sarah all hoped for that. They believed that we could fix what was broken. But after Nathan hung around, they knew it was a no-go. They told me that in Fiji. So, yeah, they're pretty upset with each of you, and rightfully so. Sarah informed Irene and Bert about how you. Vicky encouraged her to agree to a plan. You wanted her to accompany me on a 2-week vacation to a sunny, sandy location in order to make amends for your mistakes. You referred to it as making things even, or something similar. I replied, thank you, but no thanks. We both knew that would not happen. I'm not built that way. Neither is Sarah. It's sad. You think so little of your sister. If you were half as good as her, we might still be together. She also stated that you were both aware of your mother's plan to have Sarah try to win me over, and you were fine with it. All three of you make me nauseous. It's just crap. That's all you are for me. But suppose that's all in the past, right? So, you three, all of your stuff about love and missing me has nothing to do with me. You were fine with Nathan until he was hurt. I couldn't work, and money became scarce. Nathan can't make Vicky happy in bed anymore, so it must be great to have him take my place. And you too. You've just lost your easy ride in life. This is what you actually want from this call. You don't want me back, you only want my money. That's my money too, Brad, Vicky yelled. No, it is not you. It is all mine, and it remains mine. You thought you had it all under control. I told you back then that you didn't think deeply enough. Vicky, you're a little too proud. You took a chance and failed. I owe you nothing, not any of you. You made your bed. Now lie in it. I have a few more items for you three, and my lawyer will deliver the divorce papers this week. It's only a formality. The divorce leaves you with only the house. I'd never go back there anyway, like you. It is ruined and will be forever marked. Sign your divorce papers. When it's all finished, I'll give you my portion of the house. You can keep or sell it. It does not matter to me. You could make a lot of money if you sell now, but if you do not want to sign, that is fine. I can still have a good life with Tam Thong and the kids without getting divorced from you. Being apart is simple in this place. There is no need to blame anyone. I just don't want to be together anymore. That is all I will say to the court. So, sign or don't. It is happening either way. I'm about to become the father. You can see 2 youngsters playing in the backyard. You don't have any say in it. Only Tam Thong does, and she is all in. The papers will be completed soon. I had to pay a little extra to get it expedited. But it wasn't just about Tam Thong. Things are changing today. I may not love her the way I loved you, Vicky, but the love I gave you was a dead end. Tam Thong is someone I really care about and respect. Our love will increase, particularly as we have our own children. That will happen soon. I will let Irene, Bert, and Sarah know. If they wish, they can tell you. Last item. We will not be here much longer. This location is only temporary. Tam Thongs have no knots here, so movement is simple. We aren't sure where yet, but it's Fiji. That seems good. I can buy a property and it appears to be an ideal location for us. Perhaps we'll go to the Maldives next. It's also nice there. I'm thinking about buying residences in a couple different places. It doesn't really matter where we live. My parents will follow once we've decided on a location. They adore the little ones, and they appreciate Tam Thong's loyalty to me. Bert, Irene, and Sarah are always welcome here. They must also adore the children. They spent a lot of time with them in Fiji, but not you three. You are not welcome wherever we end up. Brad went silent for a moment before letting out a sigh. Vicky, I adored you more than you could imagine. For more than 20 years, I treasured second place with you. That is, until you hurt me in the way you did. The same goes for Mark and Jennifer. My love for you was unbounded, and my pride was great, until I saw your true colors. You showed me that I didn't matter to you. That's not all right with me, so now I simply don't care about you. The three you chose can hardly stand up straight. I can't even get Nathan over me. I selected 3 others over you. Obviously, I won this exchange. This is all there is to it. We're finished now, forever. I would wish you all the best, but frankly, I don't care what happens to you. Brad ended the phone before they could say anything. He leaned back, satisfied with his existence. For the first time in years, Vicky, Jen, and Mark were stunned, staring at the TV. Mark interrupted the silence. Who was that? That Dad. Jennifer, tears streaming down her cheeks, managed to say, "Yes, it was. We made him that way." Vicky couldn't find any words to say. She shook so hard she feared she might break. How could Brad be so mean? It was only a quick thing, nothing big. Nathan's move-in was necessary. If Brad had just arrived, none of this would have occurred. Nathan was merely there to help with bills. So what if they had some sex? It was only sex. If Brad had been present, none of this would have happened, and poor Nathan would not have been wounded. Vicky felt certain Brad had something to do with Nathan's injury. He managed to strike back, somehow. Where do you think Dad is? In Asia, for sure. Those people he was with appeared to be Asian, right? Mark inquired. Did they appear Asian to you? Yep. He's in Asia, Jennifer said. I've seen that lady's skirt before. A sarong. I believe people wear these in Thailand. Where the heck is Thailand? Mark inquired. Vicky struck him lightly on the head. Be mindful of your remarks. Come on, Mom. I'm almost 21. I told you to be mindful of your remarks. Jennifer searched Thailand on the computer. Wow, it's huge. Looks to be the size of Texas, or perhaps Alaska. Dad may be anywhere. Does not matter. He stated he was leaving. Where are we going? Mark inquired. Fiji or Maldives? What are the Maldives? And where's Fiji? Near Bermuda. Mark, don't you know anything about geography? No, I know Dallas. Isn't that enough? You're foolish. So Fiji is in the Pacific, not far from Hawaii, a couple hours on an aircraft. The Maldives are located south of India. Vicky could not move. She could not think. She just sat there, embracing herself. Her tears kept falling. Mark leaned back and sighed. This did not go as we had intended. We hoped he'd forgive us and come back. But he's very different now. Not the father we knew. Except with those children, that bothers me. Why? Jenny asked. That is not fair, Mark. Those kids adore him as much as we did, and he loves them back. Dad believes we deceived him, so we did. Even if we did not intend to. Nathan is lovely, but he isn't Dad. We can't blame Dad for feeling supplanted. No way, Jen. That's not correct, but it's Mark. To him. We shoved him outside. That is all he sees. He is now starting over us. We made it happen. Vicky could not believe what Jenny said. It was not like that, and do not claim it was. She snapped. Jenny gazed at her mother. Yes, it was Mom, she responded with sadness. Face it, you started the mess. Mark and I assisted, but you took the lead. We've never stood up for Dad. We ignored how he felt when Nathan walked in. We allowed him. We should have been there for him, but we're not. So, Mother, will you sign the divorce papers? I do not want to. Do you have a choice? Jenny pushed. No, Vicky said I couldn't maintain it this way. And have you gotten Nathan a car? Isn't he rich? Vicky shrugged. I honestly don't know, Mark. He was very polite to us and helped us. When things were tough, I was there for you, and I knew he liked that style of car. I just wanted to say thank you. I don't think others view it that way, Mom. It does not matter, however. Is the car wrecked? Vicky nodded. Pity. The automobile was wonderful. Tam is a lady. She's incredibly attractive. Vicky scowled, and Mark simply shook his head. She is, Jennifer stated firmly. She also cares deeply for her father. You can see it. I don't like it much, but I'm glad Dad has found some happiness. I bet she'd do anything for Dad. That is Mom. He isn't coming back. That is on us. I'm fine with him being happy there. How do you say that? Vicky was shocked. I believe it is no different from you finding someone else. Mom, Jennifer fired back. You moved first, now he has to, she said, enraged. Not cool, Jen. Screw off, Mark. You are just as awful. Mom is also present, and so am I. You only worry about Nathan's smashed car. Mom is only interested in someone else and takes Dad's money. And me. I didn't want to get caught in the middle. None of us deserved Dad. Vicky was furious if that is what you believe, she hissed. It is. I want my father back. You are blaming Dad for everything. But he didn't do anything wrong. Did you? Mark did. I did. We are all to blame. Please leave me alone. Jen, take it easy, okay? At least he didn't refer to me as a mama's boy. What a jerk. I don't care whether he comes back or not since I don't agree with him right now, Mark said, agitated. Mark was also upset that his mother had not chastised Jennifer for her statements. Perhaps Mom was simply taken aback by Jennifer's outburst. Who knows? Nothing felt right anymore. And it stunk. Tam Thong pulled away from Brad as he continued to converse on the video conversation to his old family. She sat in the shade, arms on her knees, hands interlocked, and watched him. She expected him to be upset or uptight, but he wasn't. He seemed relaxed and pleasant, even joking with the children. This made her grin. The kids were doing fine here with Brad. They felt safe and became healthier as a result of eating well. He surprised her by dressing them nicely and ensuring they understood their ABCs and 123s. The kids enjoyed learning. Their English wasn't flawless, and hers wasn't either, but Brad forced them talk just English for half the day. It was comical, but it worked for the rest of the day. They talked Thai, and Brad was getting better at it. He still looked up words frequently, but he was learning. She meant it when she told Brad's wife that he was the best man ever. That is how she saw him. It always made her offer herself to him as a T-lock, which he referred to as a lock. They had various misunderstandings about what Thai lock meant, so she asked a priest to explain to Brad. There are plenty of words. The same thing happens in Thailand. But for Brad, T-lock meant an extra wife. Tam Thong was unfamiliar with the term polyandry. Never heard of it, but that's pretty much what T-lock was in Thai terms. A man or woman might have one legal wife or husband, as well as additional Thai locks or extra wives if they were capable of caring for them. The original wife or husband had to be comfortable with new members joining, but this was rarely an issue. They frequently choose the person being brought in. This archaic ritual was less popular and was noticed more in rural areas than in cities. Tam Thong considered. However, it also happened in cities. In Karachi, she knew 4 families that did this. Brad found it difficult to acquire what Tam Thong desired. Despite the priest's best efforts, he mistook Locke for mistress rather than wife. He viewed having a mistress as being unfaithful to his wife, who was not faithful. He didn't want to expose this perplexing Tam Thong. She believed Brad's wife had no say over his life. Now, since his wife was the one who swayed her opinion on Brad receiving a Thai, Locke did not or should not matter. Tam Thong couldn't understand why Brad saw himself as betraying the priest. It's best to explain things straight for them. However, he only added to the confusion. Tam Thong did not push Brad, despite her feeling of not having enough words. She was certain the priest included his faith into his explanation of why she did not want it. But he was a Christian priest. He was likely to include his faith. She believed she could make it plain if she just said the correct words. Brad looked up words in his Thai English dictionary, but it didn't help much. One thing was plain to her, however. Brad's refusal was not because he looked down on her whenever he was with Tam Thong. He was always nice and friendly. That would not be the case if he perceived her as inferior. He may have, but he never acted like it. No. What held him back were the promises he made to his unfaithful spouse when they married. More than everything, Brad was a man of unwavering commitment and determination. He didn't like committing to one person, and that's why he had difficulty saying yes to her at first, but she grew accustomed to his way of thinking and admired his desire to honor his promise. Still, she would ask him every several months, hoping he might reconsider after living in Thailand for a while. Brad has felt stuck for several weeks. He was thinking about something important, but couldn't bring himself to discuss it. Tam Thong simply waited for him. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but it probably had something to do with her and the kids. She was afraid he was going to leave them. She had always believed that could happen. So when he finally spoke to her, she was startled to learn that he was leaving his wife in America. He asked Tam Thong if she wanted to be his real wife after his divorce and if she would allow him to adopt her 2 children. She was stunned, and Brad appeared concerned. She might say no. Before responding, Tam Thong called the priest over to double-check her answer. She got it correct, and she agreed to both. She and Brad did not want to wait for the adoption. After the video call, she was going to be Brad's partner. 10 months later, Brad and Tam Thong's family was contentedly living in a large house in Fiji, in the capital of Suva on the large island of Viti Levu. They had previously stayed at a modest beach resort that had run out of money. Brad bought it for a low price and moved everyone in. It had plenty of room, with 6 further bedrooms still available. Sarah could not attend this time, but the good news was that she had found her perfect mate and was on her honeymoon in Hawaii. Everyone hoped to take a quick trip to Fiji for a few days to see the entire family if they could get up and go. That is, Brad's parents had relocated to Fiji 6 months prior and were living in the same residence as Brad and his new family. They had their own tiny house nearby for a long time, but they joined Brad and Tam Thong for meals and socializing in the main living area. Every day, they had a large family meal. They could stay in Fiji for 6 months on their U.S. passports, but staying longer was straightforward with just one request. Bert and Irene were visiting and considering buying their own home on the island for when they retire. They also considered simply living as Aaron and Grace did in the suite they were currently in, as staying there did not cost them much. Everyone simply put money into a pot for groceries as needed. They all got along well. Bert and Irene adored Tam Thong Kid, and Apsara Keet and Apsara were overjoyed to have Brad as their father, but they still remember their biological father in their prayers. Brad refused to discuss it when Tam Thong brought it up once, despite the fact that Tam Thong was 8 months pregnant and Brad's wife. All 4 grandparents were excited about the new baby. Tam Thong didn't say whether it was a boy or a girl, so the grandparents guessed. Brad only hoped the baby would be healthy. Dear Mom, I mean it. I love you. I always will. But I can't be around you anymore because of how you've changed. You are not the mother I grew up loving. I looked up to this woman. I don't believe you've been that person since you chose to break Dad's heart and your wedding vow. Of course, you don't notice how you've changed. You believe you are still the kind, generous, and open lady you have always been. You are not. You've only become more self-centered and mean since discovering that Dad had truly abandoned you. There's nothing wrong with what happened to Nathan. You would never admit or believe that being close to Nathan caused our family to fall apart. In your eyes, you, not Dad, are the one who has been hurt. You. Everything depends on him. However, it is not Dad's fault at all. The truth is that you began tearing up your marriage and our family by cheating on Nathan, first in your heart, then in reality. You assumed Dad would approve of your affair and became upset when he did not. You say he's simply being cranky, but you're completely wrong. Dad does not become moody. He has never been like that. He sees things how they are. When he saw your betrayal, Mark's and mine, he understood there was no need to stick around. We severed all of his ties to us, so he left and did not intend to return. I do not blame him. How could I? I helped get him to leave. The problem is that you refused to take a step back and look at what caused this mess. That was you. It's just you. You believed you could do whatever you wanted at some point, for reasons you never fully disclosed to me or Mark, no matter who was hurt. You thought you had everything figured out, so you could have your affair while justifying it. What did Dad say? That you didn't think deeply enough. He was correct. He outwitted you, taking you by surprise. Probably embarrassed and ashamed that Dad was smarter than you. You should have ended things with Nathan then. And waited. I waited to talk to Dad and fix things with him. We all know you did not do the proper thing, getting upset because things did not go your way. You made a bad situation worse by allowing Nathan to move in. This feels similar to being overconfident in yourself. Did Dad actually pay for the entire house? You did absolutely nothing to help. That explains some of his fury, doesn't it? First, you hurt him and made him feel small by being with another person. And then you exacerbated the pain by having your new partner live in a home that Dad paid for. How can you not realize how awful that was for him? I say you because it was your idea. You made it a reality, and it became even messier. But I, like Mark, had a role in this. We made a huge mistake by supporting you. And Mark still does. I still don't understand why I agreed to your suggestion. I don't get why it's always been so easy for you to sway me and Mark. Maybe someday I'll understand. Or perhaps not. Right now it doesn't matter. I played a part in what happened to Dad. I'll feel sad about that for the rest of my life, and more so because I made Nathan feel at home in that house. Nathan. I hope I never encounter anybody as sly as him again. True, he's got charm, makes you like him. Yes. Nathan was always good to Mark and me, but in essence he was exactly like you. A user, a deceiver, just like you. He simply cared about what he wanted. That's all that mattered to him. He didn't care one thing about how he harmed our family. Nathan never expressed sorry in a manner I'd hear it. So I suppose he never did. He got you, which is what he wanted. Wow, he even got a free automobile out of you. Mom, that was an entirely new level of idiocy on your side. You even boasted about it. Of course, Nathan did not keep quiet about how he got the car. It appears you gave him a surprise gift. But did he manipulate you into it, making you think it was your idea? Dad knew he was seeing other girls besides you. Thought a lot about that. The only way Dad might have known is if Grandpa Bert told him. Probably because Nathan was bragging at work. It makes logical, right? So Nathan wasn't that wonderful after all, just like you. He's just another cheater, a sly one, exactly like you, Mom. I tried to discuss all of this with Mark, but he didn't seem interested. Mark thinks entirely of himself. Can you believe he's still upset with Dad for labeling him a mama's boy? Mark definitely has to mature, but I'm worried he won't. As if you disregarded me. So who might I speak to sort things out? Grandma Irene, of course. She doesn't engage in games. She sees things as they are and reveals the truth. Let me tell you, she wasn't easy on me. She didn't allow me to offer any excuses. I adore her for it. Talk about respect and someone to look up to. That's Grandma Irene for me. I respect and admire her and always will. So you're probably wondering what it all means. Simply, I've left home. As with you and Mark, I no longer have or want a place with you folks, and you're probably wondering why I'm writing to you rather than telling you in person. There are two causes. 1. You do not listen. You reject anything that contradicts your beliefs. I am tired of being ignored. While you blame Dad for everything you've done, no more. I know I can't face you and refuse what you want. It is difficult for me to stand up to you, I admit it, so I took the easy way out and left you this note. You may have guessed this, but I've left you and Mark to find Dad. I'm not sure where he is, but as you read this, I'm on a plane headed to find him. He had no idea I am coming. I hope he lets me plead for his pardon. If it is necessary, I am willing to do so in front of everyone. I still want my father back. I will do anything, even if I am scared. He might turn me away. You're undoubtedly wondering how I afforded this trip. Think about it. Grandpa Bert and Grandmother Irene, they've given me everything I need to go see Dad. They are currently with him and have promised to do all possible to show Dad how much I want to be with him again. Not just for a short time, but forever. Graham will be difficult to persuade, but I'm willing to endure any punishment she believes I deserve. Dad might still refuse to forgive me. If that happens, I'll find a job and move as near to him as feasible. That is my current plan. But I will not return to you or Mark. I'm closing the door. Only you and Mark can reopen it, if you want me back. It is up to you to make this happen. I'm not going to help. There is something more I really want. I want to meet my new brother and sister. I hope Dad and their mother tan thongs. Let me. I'd like to get to know her too. What about now, Mom? No. Ask yourself a couple questions. Try to be honest with yourself. Is our family where you imagined it would be when you first crept around? Have you seen our family come apart like this? Was it ever on your mind? This could be the end of us. Do you know how to fix what's left? Your marriage, our family, and your life? You've lost Dad for good. And Nathan appears to mean little to you. Perhaps only for conversations, perhaps not even that. What are you going to do next? I did not lie when I claimed I loved you at the beginning of this letter. I really do. I will miss you so much, but not the you of today. That mother seems to be gone. Can she come back? I've spoken everything I needed to. There's nothing else, right? Mom, I love you, but I do not like you." Brad was sitting on the deck near the water with his scotch, enjoying some alone time, thinking back on what Irene had said in secret just 3 days ago. Nathan had undoubtedly been treated unfairly, and Brad had no part in it. He found out later and made no judgments. Nonetheless, he shook his head. He even grinned, but went alone. Irene, Bert, Grace, and Aaron. They all pitched in, hired someone, and Nathan received what they believed he deserved. Brad laughed, wondering whether his mother would have liked that the guy wear a belt or not. Perhaps Grace played a role in Nathan's pain. Brad would never know for certain, but he knew Nathan would not break another family. That's why they went after him. Brad couldn't feel more love for those 4 incredible folks. Family is everything, after all. Jen knocked on the door. More terrified than ever before, Jen had everything she owned on her as she stood at the door of the guy she had terribly injured, hoping he would ever forgive her. A lady opened the door and spoke words Jen didn't understand. She was aware of her identity, however. This woman was more lovely than Jen remembered, and she was expecting a baby shortly. "Tamsin, I'm Jennifer. You might not recognize me now. I know you said Tam Thong, but her expression showed no emotion." They stood quietly for a while. Jen was shocked. She was unsure whether she had arrived at the correct location, and seeing Tam Thong sent her off. She felt a surge of emotions. Is Brad here?" Tam Thong gave Jen a peek, then led her inside. "You are waiting for foot luggage here." Jen watched Tam Thong leave. She looked around. It felt like a true home, not dirty, just warm. She heard children giggling in the rear, Brad's voice too. It reminded her of previous times with her brothers Mark and Brad. Tam Thong spoke and the children's fun music ceased. Brad soon arrived. Jen sank on her knees when she saw him. He looked great. She had never actually seen him before. Perhaps Tam Thong and her children made him happy. Jen just cried while attempting to see him clearly. "Jen, I did not." "This," Brad said. "Coming over, Dad." Jen lost it and hugged him tightly, pouring all her love into it. When she let go, she realized her father hadn't hugged in the same way. "I am sorry, I'm aware of myself." Jen tried. "Let's take a walk." Brad cut her short. He was not rude or angry, just blank, no feeling. Jen offered a slight nod. Her initial flood of emotions was subsiding, and she realized an embrace was insufficient. Brad had almost shut her out during their Skype talk, but he hadn't pushed her away now, and they were going to walk. Maybe there was hope, she reasoned. They strolled without conversing for a while. Jen noticed Brad looking around. Was he enjoying this new existence more? Was he attempting to enjoy it, or was he just postponing the part where he'd send her away? Jen decided to speak first. "She's attractive, Dad." "Who?" "Tam." He returned from his thoughts. "Yes, she is. In many ways, she actually is. I'm glad you met her, or that you two met, I suppose." "Thank you," Brad said. Then nothing for a while. He paused and faced Jen. "Is that why you've come all this way?" "No, I'm not sure what to say. You've come all this way and have no idea what to say." Jen laughed, but it seemed forced. "There is no literature on how to clean up a mess like this. Pay attention to the wording. Sorry, Dad, but I am nervous, scared, thrilled, and terrified. I am losing it. I apologize if I swear again." Jennifer took a big breath. "Dad, I've left Mom and Mark. Did you? What about him? Who? He's also involved. I think I didn't see him as an important part of my life enough to leave." "I did not spend much time with him, Dad. The truth is that I stayed away from him and Mom. To keep myself occupied, I took on a job at school. I spoke with Grandma Irene a lot about them, and she helped me understand things clearly." "Dad, I'm quite upset with how I acted. I simply can't. How can I resolve things with you? How do I get you to forgive me? You are the most important. Not Mom, Mark, or him. I left everything simply to find you. Why? I thought it was evident the last time we talked. You did it, Dad, but I wasn't for very long. I adore you, Dad. I understand. After everything that has transpired, it may seem difficult to believe, yet it is real. It took me too long to realize how much I care about you and what Mom means to you. By the time I discovered the truth, I assumed it was over. What truth did you discover?" I found out what I did wrong. What do you mean exactly? You messed up. Look, after you left, I discovered something. I realized that fun things did not keep me happy for long. I'd get angry or unhappy easily. Sure, I could laugh at a joke, but the good feeling was always fleeting. It was not like when we were a family. That's when I realized it. Family. Dad, when I realized that, we tore our family apart so Mom could have fun. It shattered something inside me. Something you taught me is to always cherish our family. I was a part of what destroyed our family. When Mom first convinced me, she made me believe that making her happy would make all of us happy. Deep down, I knew it was wrong, but every time I tried to speak up, she made me believe she was correct, saying it would not harm us. Then, when everything fell apart, I had my moment of truth. I realized why I was so upset. I botched up. I hurt you, and it splintered our family. Brad murmured softly, "It couldn't have been just you, Jennifer." I know it wasn't just me, but I had a role in it, which I shouldn't have. I agreed with Mom's falsehoods. I ignored my conscience, and it cost me my father and family. Do you still have your Mom and Mark? No, Dad, not anymore. I informed Mom we were done. If she wants me or Mark back, it is up to them. They don't understand what family is. I can't join them till they do. Mom's adrift, always wondering why people can't stand her decisions. And Mark, I suppose he missed out on cerebral air when we were younger, the only way it makes sense. Why not? Upset like me. But forget them, Dad. Even if you don't forgive me, I won't go back to them. I come here to seek your forgiveness. I sincerely hope we can fix it. So you may be my father again. But no matter what, I'm not returning. What do you believe will happen, Jennifer? Where will you go if I don't allow you to stay? Well, Dad, I finished school. I completed my degree and applied for a teaching position in Fiji English and mathematics. I have an interview next week. I figured if you were still upset, I'd find a place nearby and take the opportunity to make things right with you. I will not leave you again, Dad. Never. Brad glanced at Jen for a while. A little grin appeared on his face. Is this so? Do you really mean this? I do, Dad, I swore. Come on, where are we going? Are you kicking me out? No, I am not. You haven't met Kate, and I'm still your brother and sister. Jennifer gave a gasp. There are tears in her eyes. Yeah, and you'll have to learn Thai. Those youngsters will be easy on you if you don't, Brad remarked, smiling. Welcome back, Jen. Please don't botch this up like before. I will not, Dad. Never again. Jen smiled as she looked back and spotted Tam Thong. Tam Thong was clearly pleased that her husband had apologized to his oldest daughter and welcomed her back into the family. She hugged Jennifer and said, "He's waited so long for you, now be good." "He's really delighted. I have finally won one," Bert commented as Irene watched Brad walk Jen and Tam Thong back home. His arms encircled both. "Yes, sweetheart," Irene replied, giving him a pat. She smiled and left Bert to watch alone. "Aaron, have you heard that? I won." Bert looked around for Aaron, then saw Grace approach. "Grace? Guess who gave Jen the address?" Grace inquired with a large smile. "Bert, we all love you, but you're always a little late for Irene. Irene brought Jennifer here." Grace laughed as she left Bert, ready to say hello to her grandchild and welcome her back after 5 years. Vicky wiped her eyes, feeling sleepy. Nathan was complaining about it being too early and tried to sleep a little longer before the alarm went off again. Vicky smiled at how foolish it was to think of Jen and Mark when they were kids and didn't want to get up for school. Thinking of Jen, she realized it had been nearly 5 years since their last conversation. Jen was now with her father. It was all excellent for them. Jennifer decided to stay with her father and his family. She loved her stepbrothers and sisters, and they loved her. Vicky allowed herself to feel upset about not having Jen around before beginning her day. Vicky overheard Nathan's alarm go off again. Nathan's repeated use of the snooze button indicated that he was in severe agony. He's not a morning person, but repeatedly clicking the snooze button indicated that something was wrong. Vicky placed her hand on his shoulder. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked. "My back. It hurts," he groaned. "I'll fetch your medications," she said, heading to the medical cabinet. She examined the bottles, removing those she didn't need until she discovered the proper medications. "Only 2 remain. She will need to go out and purchase more." Nathan swallowed the pill with some tap water. "Thank you," he said. Vicky disliked it when he called her babe. After 5 years, it still didn't sound right. Brad should be the one who calls her that. She and Nathan had not been close at all, not in 5 years, and he never attempted to make her happy in other ways, not once. How could he call her babe? You are welcome. There's only one pill left. I'll get more during lunch. Will you be fine until then? She asked. Yes, I will be all right. I will stay at home today. Call me if things get too awful. I'll work something out, she told him. Thank you. Now hurry because you'll be late for work. Okay. Love you. She made a point of saying it. Yeah, she still just said love you to Brad. He's staying at home again. Vicky assumed his job was already on the line. After losing his first job due to a quarrel, he altered his ways. Nathan was a shell of his former self. He still had money, but he did not like to spend it. Vicky paid for everything. Nathan was now working part-time at Sam's Club, but he continued to miss work. Vicky suspected he wouldn't be able to hold the position for long, but she refused to say anything. Vicky chose to marry Nathan, paying restitution for the harm she caused Brad and her family. She regarded it as her due misery. There was no love in this marriage, only a sense of obligation to suffer. Vicky continued on her route without complaint. Her sister Sarah had made peace with her. Sarah, on the other hand, kept her distance from Nathan, preferring not to interact with him. She would call Vicky many times a year, always throughout the festive season. God, Vicky missed her sister so much. Sarah was still close to their parents and Brad's family. He now had a big happy six with his new companion. Sarah would slip Vicky images and make her pledge to keep them a secret. Vicky felt a sweet sting after seeing images of Jennifer looking happy and healthy. She never allowed Nathan to see them. They were her weight to bear. Vicky occasionally considered Nathan's health, wondering whether she'd discover him gone. Would she weep? Perhaps a little. But she knew what she was going to do next. Sell the house, get rid of everything, and then seek Jennifer's forgiveness. Vicky longed for her daughter and her parents. She had tried to find Fiji on online maps, following Sarah's suggestions, hoping to catch a peek of where her family was. She thought she had discovered their refuge on the vast island from a high point. If true, it looked really nice. Maybe if Nathan was away forever, she'd travel to Fiji. She would beseech Jen and her family on her knees. Perhaps it could happen. Vicky's lunchtime hit came swiftly, and she walked to a nearby drugstore while waiting in line. She felt fortunate to have health insurance after considering how much money Nathan's medicines cost. Vicky considered leaving her job. She had saved enough to retire and live well, but that concept evaporated as Nathan's medical expenditures grew. It is not that. She despised her job, yet it lacked enjoyment. It took some talking to a professional to realize that her employment felt terrific once she could return to work. It would be nicer at the end of any day. Brad would hear her highs and lows. Mark and Jen were there to comfort her on bad days and cheer her up on good days. Now, it was just Nathan at home, and he didn't want to know about her day, even when he was sober and off his pain medication. Pick up the medication? I asked. Yes, Vicky said, and she shared Nathan's information. Pain tablets and 3 more were prepared. Vicky breathed out as she paid. Nathan was in a bad situation, she thought. After leaving the care facility, it was one thing after another. A chunk of bone was floating about and needed to be removed. He started having trouble hearing in one ear. The medications caused kidney stone discomfort. Over the years, I've also done other things, but now his back was suffering badly from spine problems. Vicky didn't want to tempt fate by asking what else could happen when she stepped outside. However, fate had a plan. Vicky noticed her son on the other side of the street, holding hands with a woman who was not his wife. Mark being married to Chloe 4 years ago was a rare nice thing after Vicky messed up her own life. So why did Mark do this? She dashed across the street, chasing behind Mark. He came to a halt in front of an apartment and smiled as he spoke with a woman. Vicky had too far to travel to stop him. Mark leaned forward to kiss her. Not just a pack, but a full-fledged kiss that left nothing to chance. When Mark saw his mother, his exhilaration turned to shock. He let go of the lady's hand and faced his mother. Mom, this isn't it. Vicky slapped Mark hard on the cheek and he staggered back. Do not start with. It isn't as it seems. It's just that Chloe is the best you have left for us in the family. And you. Didn't you learn from my mistakes? You should solve this. I hope you can save your marriage, or you'll know how horrible it feels to lose the best part of your life. I acknowledge that I made a mistake. I have the necessary documentation to prove that, and it has been horrible every day since." Vicky walked out without waiting to hear Mark. It took her years and a lot of help to realize where she went wrong. But right now, she wished she had forced Mark to get therapy for her son, who was just as selfish and shallow. Like mother, like son. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, write a comment below with your thoughts on what